Plus, why we now know why a car crashed into a Rochester Dollar Tree store. That's coming up. And we saw the first major snowfall of the year in our area over the weekend. How is the rest of the country faring? And as you take a look at video from across the country, want to let you know we have a crew headed to Webster right now. There is a house fire going on and reports of potentially more. Again, we have crews heading to the scene, trying to get some information for you. We'll have it for you when we come back.
Yeah, we're just getting updates, and we're going to keep you up to date on everything that's been going on. Stay with us for the latest in just a moment.
From your breaking news and weather authority, this is 13 Wham News This Morning in high definition.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's 6:30, December 24th. I'm Norma Holland. We begin with some breaking news this morning.
Information, a lot of it very unconfirmed at the moment. We can tell you this. We have several crews headed basically to the intersection of Lake Road near Bay Road in Webster. We are just, responding to what we right now is described as an incident. We know firefighters have responded. We know police officers have responded as well.
This is the area of 191 Lake Road near Bay Road in Webster. In case you're wondering, 191 Lake Road near Bay Road. We've got Evan Dawson. He is on the way, and we're going to have more information as soon as we can get it available. Again, we're waiting for more confirmation from police and firefighters who are on the scene.
Beginning to hear from some folks over social media saying, you know, hey, are you going to cover what's going on in Webster? Again, we have several crews headed there right now. If you see something, could you email us at news@13wham.com?
Yeah, we're just getting updates.
Again, news@13wham.com. We have several crews headed there right now. But also keep in mind that if this is a very big and active scene,
to stay away.
A lot of officials, yes, again, number one, stay away. But it can take a while before we get confirmation to actually what is happening. And in fact, a lot of officials may be on the scene also trying to grasp exactly what is happening. Right now, we suggest, again, you stay away from the scene as we have a crew heading up there trying to figure out exactly what is happening. Again, this is in Webster, basically near the intersection of Lake Ave and Bay Road.
They're only calling it an incident right now, so we're just waiting for more information. And like Jen said, it's going to take a while for the information to get out from the scene. And as soon as we have it, we'll let you know. But again, just avoid that area. If you are, you know, you head that way, you should probably just avoid the area, and we'll keep you up to date.
We hear rumor, we hear scanner chatter just like you do, but it's our policy here
until we
to
get it confirmed, we can't.
From officials. So stick with us. We are working trying to get you more information about exactly what is happening up there in Webster.
And we continue to keep you up to date as soon as we get more information on a incident in Webster, a breaking news situation near Bay Road at Lake Road. Police and firefighters investigating an incident there. They will only call it an incident at this point. If you have any information about what's happening there, this is the area of 191 Lake Road, we're told, please email us news@13wham.com. Evan Dawson is on his way out there. I know, Jennifer, you're going to head out there in just a little bit, and we're going to bring you as much as we can as soon as we can.
Again, a lot of people wondering, hearing scanner chatter, hearing rumor. We're hearing it as well. But again, our policy only to go with confirmed information that we hear with officials. And right now, I think they're probably trying to confirm exactly what is happening right now.
They're trying to control the scene as well, so they've got their hands full, but
we know you want information. We are trying to confirm it for you and bring it to you as soon as we can. All right, Marty also talking about the forecast that is coming up at 6:35 on this Christmas Eve.
Okay, Marty, we've got some more information here that I'm just getting right now. We want to bring you up to date on a situation happening on Lake Road. Firefighters at a report of a fire on Lake Road this morning. We have learned that an unknown gunman opened fire on firefighters this morning on Lake Road. We can confirm that those firefighters were fired upon. We know that there are multiple injuries. We don't know how many at this point. We know that Mercy Flight is now transporting those victims from the scene at Lake near Bay this morning. Again, if you are just joining us, we have learned that there was a fire on Lake Road. It continues at this hour. People on the scene are telling us that there is an unknown gunman who opened fire upon firefighters. They retreated from the scene. We know that there are multiple injuries. We don't know exactly how many just yet, but we know Mercy Flight is on the scene and removing victims from that area. You are best to avoid the area of Lake and in Bay Road. Seth, is it 191 Lake Road? 191 Lake Road. Avoid that area. And again, we'll bring you as much information as we can. We have Evan Dawson, Jennifer Johnson, and others on their way to the scene right now. This is an active situation. As we, from what we are understanding at this hour, we don't know if the gunman has been captured. From what we understand, that unknown gunman is still out there. We'll bring you up to date as soon as we come back.
Now, weather first from the 13 WHAM Weather Authority, helping you plan your day.
Today will continue with mainly cloudy skies for much of the day. Temperatures mainly hovering in the low to even mid-30s during the afternoon, so not much of a big increase in temperatures today. A little quick burst of snow overnight tonight could cause a quick inch of accumulation in a few places, down to near 30. Tomorrow, any snow showers taper for Christmas Day, 32 then. Could be a more area-wide snow as we head into Wednesday night, and then by the weekend, temperatures only in the upper 20s for highs.
All right, Marty, we continue following our breaking news this morning. If you're just joining us, we are hearing a report of an unknown gunman shooting at firefighters at a house fire on Lake Road in Webster. We're talking about the area of 191 Lake Road near Bay Road. Firefighters confirming for us that this unknown gunman opened fire on those firefighters. They retreated from the scene. Several people were shot at this point. Mercy Flight is now transporting multiple victims from Bay Road to the hospital at this point. We know the fires are still going. We say fires because there may be multiple homes involved. Again, this all coming to light just within the last few minutes on this broadcast. We have several crews on their way to the scene, rather at the scene, and then more on the way. We're going to have you updated, of course, throughout this broadcast. And as soon as we find out, we'll let you know. It is not clear if this gunman is still out there. We don't know if he or she has been apprehended, but we do know, according to firefighters, they did confirm that that unknown gunman opened fire on those firefighters as they were responding to a house fire, and they removed themselves from the scene. Several people shot, victims now being transported to the hospital by Mercy Flight. When we come back, your morning rush, nonstop news until after 7. Stay with us. Again, we're following this as well as other breaking news stories this morning. We'll be right back.
From your breaking news and weather authority, this is 13 WHAM News This Morning in high definition.
We begin now with breaking news this morning on this Christmas Eve. You are looking at live video right now of a fire on Lake Road near Bay Road in Webster. This is in the area of 191 Lake Road. We have been able to find out this morning, according to firefighters, that an unknown gunman opened fire on firefighters as they responded to that fire on Lake Road this morning. Firefighters removed themselves, of course, from the scene. Several people were shot. Victims are now being transported by Mercy Flight from Bay Road. Fire, of course, still going, as you see from this live video. Firefighters were shot as they attempted to try and respond to that fire. Multiple people injured. The fire is still going, and we are still getting updates from the scene. We have several crews on the scene, more on the way. And as soon as we find out more, we will let you know. And of course, we continue nonstop through 7 o'clock. This is a look at the forecast. Mostly cloudy skies, temps right around the freezing mark today. But let's continue on with our breaking news this morning. We continue to follow that breaking news out of Webster. We have several crews on the scene of that fire on Lake Road near Bay Road. Police and firefighters are continuing to investigate. We understand that a gunman, unknown gunman, opened fire upon those firefighters. This is all we know at this point, and we continue to get updates as we hear more. We will let you know. Again, it is not clear if this gunman, the person who was shooting, the shooter, is still in the area. If they've been apprehended, we don't know just yet. We understand just now, I'm just hearing an update that a SWAT team is on the scene right now. So again, this is all happening as we speak, and we'll bring you the very latest. But again, we don't know who the shooter is, where they are. We do know that they opened fire on those firefighters. There are several victims, and again, we'll keep you up to date. And we continue with more breaking news out of the city of Rochester, where police are investigating a stabbing at a club overnight. Police say a fight between two men from Rochester led to one of them being stabbed at the club Network on Central Avenue. Another man was cut across the face, both taken to separate hospitals to be treated. Officers say the stabbing victim's wounds not serious, but not life-threatening. And some more breaking news. A family out of Rochester is homeless this morning after an overnight fire on Lincoln Street. Firefighters say it started on the first floor of the home around 2:30 this morning. All four people inside, including two children, were able to get out of that home safely. Firefighters say the first floor was badly damaged. They don't know yet how it started. And some closings to let you know about today, affected by the holidays. Government offices and services closed. A garbage and recycling collection on for today, but not for tomorrow. The rest of the week will be delayed by one day. City branch libraries also closed today and tomorrow for the Christmas holiday. More closings are listed on 13wham.com. Well, we have snow here on the ground, but forecasters saying there's a lot more to come. Heavy snow and torrential rains have delayed and stranded millions of travelers. Roads are practically impassable in some parts of the West, and that storm is predicted to move east quickly over the next couple of days. People heading out west today and tomorrow could be in trouble because of that. We should let you know at least 30 flights in California were canceled, and several more could be today if this snow keeps up. Marty Snyder will tell us what we can expect for the next 48 hours coming up in just a few minutes. And an update on a story we first reported last night. A woman from Rochester is facing multiple charges after Gates police say she crashed into a Dollar Tree store. This is what it looked like at the scene. Police say 29-year-old Cindy Carey was trying to find her dropped cell phone in her car when she crashed through the front window of the store on Spencerport Road. 3 people were hurt in the crash. Carey was not injured and is not in the Monroe County Jail. New this morning, Monroe County Sheriff's deputies say a pickup truck driver is going to be okay after crashing in Chi-Li late last night. Sheriff's deputies say the driver hit a pole at the intersection of Beaver and Archer Road in Chi-Li. The driver's injuries aren't serious. Deputies say they aren't aware of any charges being filed in this case. Marty?
Well, thanks, Nora. For today, we'll continue with quite a few clouds for a lot of the day. It's this next system we're going to keep an eye on, this one little segment of moisture that's down through Kentucky, even up into portions of Indiana right now. That's what's going to move through our area heading into the overnight tonight. Could cause a quick inch of accumulation, so just enough to freshen up some of the snow that we already have seen be put on the ground over the past weekend. So for today, we're starting off mainly in the upper 20s to near 30. Heading through the day, most highs in the lower 30s to even mid 30s during the afternoon. Mostly cloudy, maybe a couple limited breaks of sun for a few places. Overnight tonight, we'll see temperatures pull back to about 30 for that low. Again, up to an inch of accumulation possible then. Whatever we see early on Christmas Day tapers for that snow shower activity, 32 then. Wednesday, a lot of the day is going to be snow-free. Heading towards the evening hours and into the overnight Wednesday night, that's when we're going to see our next system lift up closer to us. Could see a fair accumulation out of that. Still early to give numbers for accumulation amounts, but that's the next storm we'll be watching. And then temperatures begin to pull back a little bit by the end of the work week, back to about 30 on Friday, and then back to the upper 20s for highs as we head into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now back to normal.
All right, Marty, let's go right back to our breaking news this morning. We're talking about a fire in Webster, a massive fire there happening at a home on Lake Road near Bay Road. According to firefighters on the scene, a shooter opened fire upon those firefighters as they attempted to respond to that fire. This happening at 191 Lake Road. They had to move away from the scene. Several people were shot. We know victims being transported by Mercy Flight. The SWAT team is on the scene right now investigating along with firefighters and police. At this point, it is unknown the whereabouts of that shooter, but we do know that there are several investigators on the scene trying to piece together what's going on. Now, that fire is at 191 Lake Road. It's not clear if it involves any other homes. Let's take a look at that map again if you're wondering where this is. This is 191 Lake Road in Webster, right near Bay Road. There you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, an unknown gunman. We don't know who this person is. They opened fire on those firefighters. We have several people shot. We don't know the condition yet. We do know that several are being taken to the hospital. This story has, as you can imagine, a massive response, including of firefighters and other emergency responders. We have several crews on the scene, and we are working to get an update from one of our reporters, Evan Dawson, Jennifer Johnson, on the scene, along with several photographers. And as soon as we get more information, we're going to bring you that information. But again, this is what we know. Again, several victims shot at a fire on Lake Road. The shooter is, we don't know their whereabouts at this point. We're still getting more information. And again, if you know of anything, if you see of anything, or you are able to share any information, of course, call 911 and avoid that area if at all possible. That is going to be the scene of massive response this morning and well throughout the day. But again, if you're just joining us, we've got a fire going on in Webster this morning at a home on Lake Road. Multiple people shot at that fire. Just a horrific scene. Firefighters trying to respond to that fire. Someone opened fire upon them, injuring, at this point, we're only told multiple victims. We don't know if they're firefighters or if they're people in the home. We just don't know. We're still trying to get more information. We have Mercy Flight ambulances transporting those victims from the scene. The whereabouts of that shooter still unknown at this hour. We have several reporters on the scene, and we're going to try and get an update from them. We've got about a minute left till we head over to Rochester CW. We invite you to join us there. The conversation will continue there, information there, as well as on 13wham.com. We have all the information that we are able to confirm posted there this morning. And don't forget, join us on Facebook, on Twitter, all social media. Let us know what's going on. Let us know what you see. Again, firefighters responding when someone opened fire upon them. Several people injured. That's all we know right now. But we are learning more with every passing moment, and we'll bring you the very latest as soon as we can. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you on Rochester CW. Join us there.
Breaking news and weather authority. This is 13 Wham News this morning on Rochester's CW in high definition.
All right, it is 7 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. I'm Norma Holland.
And good morning. I'm meteorologist Marty Snyder.
We are following breaking news this morning, as you've perhaps have been following us all this morning on 13wham.com, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. We have a massive fire this morning in Webster. We're going to get to that in just a bit. We know that there are several victims after a gunman opened fire upon those firefighters, folks. This is the scene. If you are anywhere near this area, turn back. Don't go there. Right now, we know that there is a massive response from emergency responders trying to get the victims out of there. Someone opened fire. We don't know who, we don't know why, and we don't know how many victims just yet, but we know that Mercy Flight and ambulances are transporting the victims to area hospitals right now. All right, but we're going to switch gears now entirely because people here in Rochester are going to be traveling to see their loved ones for Christmas, and they need to know what that forecast is going to be like. I know we got that snow on Saturday, but this morning it seems kind of quiet out there.
Yeah, for today, weather-wise, it looks like a quiet day inside Western New York. We'll continue with a lot of cloud cover for a lot of the day, but at least travel is not going to be an issue. Notice how in other parts of the country you can see some rain down to our south. That's a system which will affect us heading into tonight, mainly during the overnight hours. We'll get into some of that, what is now rain, but will be snow by the time it arrives here. That's throughout eastern Kentucky, the lower part of Indiana. That's going to make its way in here mainly into the overnight. Could cause up to an inch of accumulation. It's not really a big deal, just enough to have to keep in mind as you travel out going into tomorrow morning for Christmas Day. But I think overall it's just going to cause that little fresh coating on the ground, which I think is going to be quite favorable for a lot of folks. So today we're starting off mostly in the lower 20s. We'll get up to about 32 by noon, still mostly cloudy then. And then heading through the afternoon, we'll keep some cloud cover in place. Again, at any point could see a couple little glimpses of sun, but overall a mainly cloudy day is in store for us. Temperatures today mostly in the lower 30s to even mid 30s during the afternoon. Right now 29 degrees, just a small breeze at about 6 miles an hour. Again, that cloud cover is going to hold on pretty well for a lot of the day today. Most areas are somewhere in the 20s, especially west and south of Rochester. Notice Penfield, Williamson, even Clyde, Wolcott coming in just barely into the 30s or close to 30 right now. So futurecast today, again, keeps the cloud cover in place for a lot of the day. Could be a couple breaks of sun during the morning. I don't think we're going to see quite as many as what the computer is trying to hint at there, but maybe a few limited breaks. Heading into the overnight tonight, what's left of any of that moisture that's well to our southwest now. That'll lift up and through the area. Again, that's what's going to cause that quick inch of accumulation in a few places. That should be about the extent of it. That moves out, and then we quiet things down a little bit for Christmas Day, but still have to watch a possible storm as we head into very middle parts of this week. Probably for us, maybe centering on Wednesday night. Could be some widespread accumulation then. Again, too early to really talk accumulation amounts. Could even be some mixed precipitation working in, but that's that next time frame we're going to be watching closely. So for today, looks like a quiet weather day in store for us. Some snow overnight tonight. Could put down up to an inch of accumulation in a few places. Any early snow showers Christmas Day taper off, 32 then. Heading into Wednesday, expect a quiet day once again, but at least heading into the evening, that's when we start to see some of that steadier snow begin to build in. 35 on Thursday, and then temperatures anywhere from 30 to the upper 20s for highs from Friday into the weekend as those temperatures begin to pull back at least a little bit throughout that time frame with at least a few snow showers possible.
All right, Marty, thank you so much. We continue to follow breaking news out of Webster this morning. This is a major story this morning. We have a crew on the scene of a house fire on Lake Road near Bay Road in Webster. Here's what we can tell you. According to firefighters, an unknown shooter fired upon firefighters as they were attempting to respond to the fire. Let's see if we can take a shot of the scene this morning. That shooter injured several people. We don't know who the shooter is. We don't know where they are at this point. Firefighters then retreated from the scene. They got out of there, and now we understand that those victims are being taken to the hospital. It's not clear who those victims are. We don't know if they're firefighters, if they're people from inside the home or the neighborhood. We don't know just yet. This is 191 Lake Road in Webster. So if you are anywhere near that area, if you are headed there, avoid that area altogether. This is a look right now at the scene, or rather of a map there, and it is an active investigation. We know SWAT team. The SWAT team is there as well, and right now we're trying to piece together more information. But again, the details are slow in coming because obviously emergency responders are very busy. They've got a fire that is still raging, and they have a shooter that they're trying to apprehend. Evan Dawson, Jennifer Johnson are headed, or rather are on the scene right now, and several photographers as well. So we intend to bring you the very latest information as soon as we can. But at this point, all we can confirm for you is an active fire going on this morning at a home on Lake Road near Bay Road in Webster. And again, a shooter unknown. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are at this point. But just a horrific scene for those firefighters and, of course, the family of that home and the neighbors all around that area. So again, avoid that area. Join us on 13wham.com. We've got all the information there. On Facebook, we are posting information as fast as we can, as well as Twitter. But if you see anything, let us know what you're seeing. If you can safely find out information, or you know of something, please let us know. This is a situation in which the more eyes and ears we have out there, you know, we often ask you to send us information if you see news happening where you are. This is the story where we need your information. We need your input, as well as the input of all of our reporters and other responders who are out there this morning. We're going to keep you up to date as soon as we find out more. This is all we know right now. We don't know where that shooter is, but as soon as we find out, we will let you know. We are contacting area hospitals to find out as much as we can. And we do know that the SWAT team is on the scene. All right, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll keep you up to date on this latest news as we continue throughout this morning. Thank you for joining us. And again, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and on 13wham.com for more information on this.
Breaking news alerts and your Weather Authority forecast with Doug Embledge, Norma Holland, Evan Dawson, Jennifer Johnson, and meteorologist Marty Snyder. This is 13 Wham News on Rochester CW in high definition.
All right, welcome back. Let's take a look at that forecast for you this morning. If you're just joining us, the forecast for today, not getting up much around or much past freezing today. A cold morning, as you can see there, temps right now in the 29 degrees, some snow overnight. But a quiet day, according to meteorologist Marty Snyder. Let's still take a look at time-saver traffic right now. If you are headed out this morning, this is 104 at Bay Road, not far from the scene of a massive fire that we're going to tell you about. As you can see, that traffic is still very light this morning. Now let's get to our breaking news we've been following all morning long for you. Just a horrific story. who we have Evan Dawson standing by on the phone after just a horrific story out of Webster, a fire at a home on Lake Road near Bay Road. This is an active fire investigation, as well as, according to firefighters, an unknown shooter opening fire upon those firefighters as they responded to that fire. Evan Dawson, just one of our reporters on the scene, he joins us now by telephone. Evan, what can you tell us and where are you right now? Do we have Evan Dawson? All right, while we work to get Evan Dawson, this is a live look at the scene from Lake Road in Webster. We understand firefighters say an unknown shooter opened fire upon those firefighters as they were responding to that fire. Those firefighters got out of the area. They had to. We don't know how many victims. We know there are multiple injuries, and firefighters say that Mercy Flight as well as ambulances on the ground are transporting victims from the scene. It is not clear who the victims are. We don't know where the shooter is or why they were shooting. At this point, we're still trying to figure out exactly what's going on, but we know that those emergency responders are working as hard as they can to try and get that fire under control. It's not clear what started it. There's a lot of question marks around this, but again, this is 191 Lake Road near Bay Road in Webster. So if you are headed that way for any reason, avoid that area. We don't know how many homes are burning at this point. We know that it started at 191 Lake Road. A lot of unanswered questions. Again, who that shooter is, why they were shooting, how this could possibly happen. We just don't know. But we do know this. It's Christmas Eve, and there are families that were home this morning in anticipation of being with their families. Just a horrific scene for those families and the firefighters who were just doing their job this morning, trying to put out those flames. They have been unable to. They retreated. They got away from the scene in order to deal with the injured, and that is where we stand right now. Evan Dawson. We were going to try to go to him on the phone this morning. Jennifer Johnson is on the scene as well, along with photographers. This is a view from across the bay. We're apparently at a private residence. Someone let us set up there, and we're shooting from that vantage point over to that home on Lake Road in Webster. We're going to take a break from this story, move on to another one, but as soon as we get word from Evan Dawson that he is available, we will go to him live and have him tell us what he knows. All right, we're going to continue now following our breaking news from Webster this morning. Evan Dawson is standing by on the phone. Evan Dawson, what can you tell us? What's going on there, Evan?
Well, Norma, and you can tell me, do we still have the live picture?
Yes, we do, Evan. While you're speaking, Evan, we're going to go to that live shot, if we can, live picture of that fire.
Yeah, because, Norma, you've seen that, and I haven't, because we're so far away from that scene. They are blocking off a large area and calling this a very active investigation still. I will tell you as much as we know, and Norma, you may be able to help me as well, having seen some of the pictures.
Sure.
There's a house on fire. And it's on Lake Road, and it's sort of on on the point of the peninsula. It's between the swing bridge is west of the house, and east of that house is Bay Road. They are now evacuating homes in that area. We've confirmed they are evacuating homes in that area, and you cannot get through. You cannot get across the swing bridge, and you can't get west on Bay Road at Bacchus and several others that would lead out to that area. So there's a house fire. Firefighters show up at the house fire, and best that we know, Norma, and again, I want to stress here, police have not been able to tell us very much. This is the best we can tell you, is that someone fired shots at firefighters, and apparently there were at least 2 serious injuries. Mercy Flight.
How many, Evan? I'm sorry, how many?
At least 2.
Okay.
But we're working to confirm the exact number. We were told 5 minutes ago by a deputy that all they would tell us is that it is still a very active investigation. Mercy Flight is on the ground. We are presuming they are transporting the firefighters who might have been shot, but we don't have that confirmed. And we can also tell you that an armored police truck showed up in the area. I overheard, and again, I've got to be careful here because there's a difference between hearing scanner traffic and overhearing conversation among deputies or firefighters as opposed to getting it confirmed at the scene. So I can tell you I overheard two firefighters who were blocking off part of Bacchus Road off of Bay Road. They said, this is about 10 minutes ago, they said the person with the gun, or the shooter, has not been found, that they are still looking for him, and that no one knows where he is. Again, that obviously is what we assume is the reason that the armored personnel are out there now.
Okay.
But this is a lot of this coming from sort of semi-confirmed or unconfirmed sources, so we got to be careful with that.
Evan, I know you're being very cautious, and yes, we have to be very careful, and I know you are. Yeah, we are seeing right now, Evan, what you cannot see, what we are seeing from our vantage point, from the from the live shot, is this just raging house fire. Did you say, Evan, that there were homes in that area that were being evacuated, right?
Yeah, yes, that is correct, and whether it's because that fire is still active or they're concerned about people's safety, otherwise we don't know.
Okay.
But, again, another thing, another part of this that we have overheard is that the firefighters who showed up to fight the fire were fired on, and obviously at that point they abandoned their efforts to fight that house fire. So that's why that fire might not be something that can be combated at this time safely. So it is a very difficult situation for police and firefighters.
I can only imagine what is going on. There were some flashes that we saw too, off in the distance there. We don't know what those are from, if that's just from the fire or from, we don't know at this point. Evan, so just to reiterate, if you can, they've evacuated homes in that area. That area is closed off. So how far away are you, Evan? Where are you right now?
Right now, we're at a school on Bay Road.
I'm sorry, say that again?
This is where they have asked some media to go, and we are following their orders. So,
okay, who is the lead? I mean, there's so many agencies on the scene. Who are you told to confirm information with?
Well, we've been in touch with deputies from the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. We're also seeing West Webster Fire Department out there. You know,
we see more flashes in the distance there.
But obviously now this is a police investigation.
Okay, again, so according to what you're hearing, that gunman, the shooter, I shouldn't say gunman, we don't know if it's a man or woman, that shooter has not been found yet. We keep seeing these flashes in the distance. I'm not sure if that's just, you know, I don't know. But Evan, it's an amazing scene to see this, just this huge fire out of control. Firefighters now, Evan, at this point, are there any fire that you're able to confirm about those firefighters? Are they still on the scene? Listen, you know what, Ev, we're going to take a break. We'll get back to you in just a bit. We're going to go to break and we'll come back. We'll have more information as we get more from the scene. Evan Dawson reporting live from Webster. We'll be right back. Good morning at 7:24. I'm Norma Holland. We've got your news headlines. Right now, we're beginning with breaking news from Webster this morning. We're talking about the area of Lake Road and Bay Road. There are reports from firefighters on the scene of a huge fire that someone began shooting at firefighters as they responded to the scene. Evan Dawson is standing by live on the phone with what he can tell us. I know, Evan, you're not right near the scene because that area has now been blocked off. What can you tell us, Evan?
They call this a very active investigation, Norma. They've evacuated some homes near the burning home. We're not told why, but you can certainly imagine. And overheard at the scene was that they don't know where the apparent shooter is. But we are still waiting for more official word from deputies from the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. We did hear that at least 2 firefighters were hurt and were potentially being airlifted, mercy flighted to Strong. We will have updates live for you coming up on Rochester CW.
All right, and as you can see from this live picture from across the bay, this is a home on fire. According to Evan Dawson, the folks in that area, in that neighborhood, have been evacuated. Again, it is not known where the shooter is at this point, but firefighters able to confirm that this morning, as they responded to that fire at 191 Lake Road, someone began opening fire. Someone began shooting at firefighters. They retreated from that scene. 2 firefighters, at least 2 injured, being taken by Mercy Flight to Strong Hospital. There may be other victims. Again, it is not known the whereabouts of the shooter, at least that we know right now. As we find out more, we will let you know as soon as that information becomes available. And here's Marty Snyder.
Well, thanks, Norma. Starting off today with quite a few clouds in place. Overall, we'll keep them around for a lot of the day. 34 today, some scattered snow showers tonight. Could see up to an inch of accumulation. Holding in the 30s for the next couple days. Have to watch Wednesday night closely. That could be the next widespread snow across the area. And then pulling back to near 30 in the 20s for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now back to Norma.
All right, thank you so much, Marty. And we continue with more local news. Follow us on 13wham.com, Facebook, Twitter. And we continue with our breaking news on Rochester CW. We will see you there.
Breaking news and weather authority. This is 13 Wham News this morning on Rochester's CW in high definition.
All right, if you're just joining us, we continue following our breaking news this morning. This is just about as horrific a story as we can report to you on Christmas Eve. According to firefighters who were responding to a fire at a home on Lake Road this morning near Bay Road, someone began shooting at firefighters as they responded to that massive fire at the home at 191 Lake Road in Webster. This is live video from the scene. As you can see, that fire continues to burn out of control right now. According to reporters on the scene, Evan Dawson, Jennifer Johnson, the homeowners have been evacuated from that area. We don't know who the shooter is. We don't know why they were shooting. At this point, we do know that at least 2 firefighters were injured in this and are now being taken by Mercyful Light to Strong Hospital this morning. We know that there's an armored police truck on the scene along with the SWAT team. And as you can see in the distance, these flashes of light. We don't know what that is at this point. We're still trying to figure out. But again, our reporters have been kept far away from this scene. That area has been blocked off. Our photographer and our live truck operator are within the perimeter and have set up where they can shoot across the water there to this home. We don't know where the shooter is. It is unclear. There's still so many unanswered questions at this point. But that entire area, you can't go west on Bay Road. It's just blocked off. So you won't even get near there at all. We're still trying to confirm a lot of information about this, but again, we're only getting so much because, as you can imagine, firefighters and police are just inundated with their work right now. But we do know that at least 2 firefighters were injured. Multiple, there may be others. We just don't know at this point. We continue this conversation. If you're just joining us and you want to find out the latest information, maybe you have to go somewhere, you can stay tuned, of course, and stay up to date by checking out 13wham.com. Of course, we have the very latest on our Facebook page as well as on social media on Twitter. And if you see of anything, or if you hear of anything, or you see anything odd, please call 911. Let us know what you see. Of course, you can email us in the newsroom. But at this point, we're still trying to get, we've got reporters on the ground who are working to get the very latest. See it, snap it, share it as always if you see of anything Okay, and Evan Dawson's joining us back on the phone this morning as he's been. Evan, how far away are you from the scene? I know that you're being kept a distance away where all other media are as well, correct?
Yeah, a very good ways away, Norma, to the point where our live truck that has been showing you those pictures was one of the first down to the scene, or at least to the area, and was able to get in position to bring you that shot.
Wow.
We can barely even get out to where that live truck is now. So it is, as you can imagine, it is a scene that they are blocking off and trying to establish a wide perimeter to make sure that people are safe and that their investigation can happen here. Norma, you talked about flashes and pops in the distance.
Yes.
One of the concerns is that the fire is spreading to other structures nearby. And one of the things that we have not heard anyone say yet, and again, there's a lot of speculation here, is who lives in that house that burned? Well, obviously, we don't know what the motivation is. If it is true that there is a fire and that firefighters were shot at, and that's what we've been told. If that is the case, did someone set that fire and then shoot at responding firefighters? Did that person live in that house? Is there a family that lives in that house?
That's
and
the
where
question. Right, exactly.
There are some really terrible questions that have still not been answered here. And now you've got a situation where houses nearby are being evacuated, and the concern is because firefighters can't fight that fire, and they certainly are not going to unless they know that they are safe to, that they have to let it burn, and that what ends up burning, what ends up as a result happening is you could have it spreading, and that's apparently what's happening.
Right.
You know, Norma, I cannot remember a time where a fire had to burn out of control because firefighters simply could not safely fight it. We have such amazing fire teams, fire departments in this area, and they're all. So, I've got to run here, Norma. We're going to talk to someone.
All right, go ahead.
And try to get you an update.
Go for it. Go for it. Jennifer Johnson is also, she's been emailing the newsroom with updates, and hopefully we can get a chance to talk to Jennifer. But as you heard Evan say, this is just as about as awful a situation as you can imagine, and I don't think that's putting too fine a point on it. It really is awful to think of firefighters being fired upon as they had tried to respond to that house fire. Evan in an earlier report said 2 firefighters were taken to the hospital, and it's unclear where the shooter is. And that's just, and as you can imagine, there are fire departments around the area. West Webster, we've got firefighters, Wayne County, they're all on standby, if not already at the scene, trying to help out. But again, that area has just been evacuated. As firefighters try to do their work, but at this point they're also tending to their own who were injured in the shooting. A lot of unanswered questions. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the very latest as soon as we can. Again, the report of a fire at a home on Lake Road near Bay Road this morning. Firefighters reporting that someone began to shoot at them as they went into that home, or rather as they responded to the scene to try and fight the fire. We'll be right back. We're going to go back now to our breaking news situation in Webster this morning. We are still getting updates from the scene of a massive fire at a home at 191 Lake Road near Bay Road in Webster. And that fire continues to burn out of control. According to firefighters and emergency responders on the scene, a shooter began shooting at firefighters and first responders as they responded to the scene of that fire. According to reporter Evan Dawson, who is not near the scene because they're being kept away a distance, at least 2 firefighters were injured, being flown by Mercy Flight to Strong Hospital. As you can imagine, the response to this has been massive. There are a number of police and fire agencies on the scene. It is unclear as to the whereabouts of that shooter right now. Those homes along Lake Road there in Webster have been evacuated, and Evan Dawson is standing by on the phone live right now with new information. Evan, what can you tell us?
Norma, we just spoke with the fire marshal from the town of Webster. His name is Rob Boutelier, and Rob tells us that the way it unfolded is as follows. Around 6 o'clock this morning, there was a call to Lake Road for a fire. They're not sure if the house is vacant or occupied. There are some vacant houses in that area, but they do not know about this particular one. Now, when firefighters arrived, someone fired on the firefighters. One firefighter was shot in the rear end, was able to get out of the area in his own personal car, get back to safety, was able to describe in some fashion where the shots were coming from, and was able to get medical attention. He has been treated as in satisfactory condition at Strong Hospital. There are reports that 1 or 2 other firefighters were shot, and again, this is the West Webster Fire Department first responding. There are reports that 1 or 2 other firefighters were shot and that had to be airlifted to Strong, Mercy flighted to Strong. The fire marshal is not commenting on that situation. I said that's unusual not to comment, and he said at this point we cannot comment.
Comment on what aspect of the situation, Evan? I'm sorry.
The report that at least 1 or 2 other firefighters were also shot, and if they were, how seriously hurt they are. The answer is we don't know because they're not commenting, but they will await further word on that. Now, at that point, obviously, they had to abandon their firefighting efforts and get to safety. The house, as you can tell from the video and the live images you have been seeing, burned and obviously burned out of control. We can now confirm the house has spread. The house fire there has spread to a second house, and a second house is burning. Again, with no one to fight it safely right now. There are concerns it could spread further because, as the fire marshal said, if a fire like this is going to be untouched, it will go until it doesn't have any more fuel. And the hotter and stronger it gets, the more it's going to access additional fuel surrounding it. So the concern is that other houses could be in danger. They have evacuated that area for that reason, and also because they don't know where the shooter is. The Monroe County Sheriff's Department has been called in leading that investigation, and they are doing their best to figure out who might have been shooting from where and where that person may be. But the fire marshal says until they get word that it is safe, those fires will have to be allowed to burn. And the best they can do at this point is hope that it doesn't spread further. He says in 23 years in this position, he has never encountered firefighters showing up on the scene and being either fired upon or in danger of harm from a person actively trying to hurt them. So just a wild situation here.
So unprecedented in our community. You said that the fire marshal would not comment on the report of the other firefighters injured. He did confirm one firefighter injured in the backside who was able to get away, right? So he would not comment on the other two.
That's exactly right, Norma. One firefighter, we can confirm a gunshot wound in the rear end. That firefighter was able to drive his own personal car away from that scene over to Seabreeze, was able to communicate with law enforcement before they took him to the hospital.
Okay.
That firefighter is listed in satisfactory conditions, going to be okay. But with regards to other firefighters hurt, we don't know.
So we've got a fire burning out of control in this area. Now 2 homes involved, right? That's according to the fire marshal.
That is correct.
2 homes involved. And what you don't see, Evan, and what we are showing viewers right now is just that massive smoke. There are reports of people in Irondequoit who can hear the sirens, they can see the smoke, because this is not far from the swing bridge, right, Evan, you said earlier?
It's east of the swing bridge on Lake Road.
Okay.
And west of Bay Road. That's correct.
Okay. And at this point, so they've got a fire burning out of control. They've got the sheriff's deputies investigating the whereabouts of the shooter. Did the fire marshal talk at all about the shooting, the shooter themselves at all, as to that they don't know where this person is? Was he able to comment on that?
No, they don't. And I asked Norma if they were able to ascertain, based on just an address, if the home is vacant or occupied.
They said they didn't know.
There. And he said he does not know. You know, you get into a lot of speculation. The hope at this time is that it was a vacant house, only for obvious reasons, but nobody knows at this point, Norma.
So they did have to evacuate some homes in that area, right? Or an evacuation effort was made.
Exactly right, and obviously because they're concerned about that fire still spreading. I mean, how often have you ever seen a fire just burning and untouched like this? Never
in our community. Firefighters, they do a fantastic job. They are, our local heroes. They respond to these, and that's what they were trying to do this morning. And as you heard, Evan, you said there, the fire marshal himself saying in 23 years, he's never seen firefighters put in danger in this manner, where someone was firing upon them or meant to do them harm as they came to try and fight the fire themselves. Just unbelievable. We're getting a lot of information and comments, of course, from people on Facebook and Twitter. And again, if you know of anything or see of anything, please let us know. I know, Evan, you're out there. You're kind of being kept in one area, right? Are you able to move at all and anywhere, or are you just sort of kind of stuck there behind?
They have just about as wide of a perimeter scene, but that's because it's an active investigation. They want to, number one, make sure people are safe from the fire, and number two, they want to try to allow investigators and an armored vehicle and a SWAT team try to figure out where the shooter establish some kind of a contact. So, it is a wide area. From where we're sitting, we can see the column of black smoke now in the distance, but that is all we can see from our vantage point.
Jennifer Johnson is trying to get more information as well. Evan, I know you are too, and she is getting us more information about some of the folks in that area who may know or are able to tell us what they see as well. Just a horrific scene, unprecedented in all of my years reporting, and I've not been here. I've been here a fraction of the time compared to our colleagues at this station, and I don't recall this ever happening. So again, Evan, thank you very much for that update, and I know you'll keep us up to date.
If I could just say real quickly here, and maybe our producers will hear this as well, because a lot's happening quickly here. As soon as we can send back the sound from the fire marshal, you will hear it from him.
Okay.
I'm repeating a lot of what he told
All
me,
right.
but you will hear it from him as soon as we can get it to you.
And we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more information on our breaking news from Webster this morning. We continue now with our breaking news from Webster this morning, where firefighters responding to a house fire at 191 Lake Road in Webster near Bay Road were fired upon by an unknown shooter around 6 o'clock this morning. Firefighters, the fire marshal, Webster's fire marshal, was able to confirm to us this morning that one firefighter was injured in the fire. He was shot at. He was injured in the backside, able to drive himself to the hospital where he was eventually treated at Strong Hospital. It is not clear if there are other firefighter victims at this point. We don't know where the shooter is, the whereabouts of that shooter. The fire, as you can see in this video, is now burning out of control. Firefighters have abandoned the scene for their own safety as they tend to their own at this point. The fear is that this fire will continue to burn out of control. There are now 2 homes on fire, and the fear is that that fire will continue to spread. At this point, we don't know the whereabouts of the shooter. We know one person indeed was shot and is at the hospital. No word on any other victims. And at this point, we know that firefighters are just right now trying to deal with their own at this point. We know the SWAT team is there. The victim was other victims, we understand, may have been mercy flighted from the scene or flown by mercy flight to the hospital. Firefighters say that the area and that entire area, the homes have been evacuated. We're going to take a break in just a bit, and we'll come back with more information, with the very latest information from Jennifer Johnson, who is on the scene. We're going to take a pause just for one moment so that our viewers on 13 WHAM can join us. And if you're just joining us, we continue with our breaking news coverage from Webster this morning, where we have heard that a unknown shooter began firing upon West Webster firefighters as they responded to that fire. You're looking at a live picture right now of that fire as it burns out of control. Firefighters had to abandon the scene for their own safety after someone began shooting at them. Jennifer Johnson joins us live by telephone this morning with the very latest that she can bring us from where she is. Jennifer.
Norma, this is such a tough scene to be covering. You are seeing some pictures coming from the Webster side of the outlet bridge. I'm right now on the Rondequoit side. I'm looking at the swing bridge. You can still see an awful lot of thick black smoke, but what's really getting me here is we have an awful lot of emergency personnel here, ambulance crews, firefighters, police officers, SWAT teams, and there's a lot of heavy hearts. As you can imagine, the emergency personnel, a lot of the firefighters, very close-knit, sitting here trying to get their job done, wondering really about their friends. A lot of them work together in emergency situations. A lot of people, beginning to hear names, beginning to hear conditions. But this is still a very active scene, as we understand, still looking for this person. So right now, safety is the #1 goal here. Not a lot of information officially given to us. We're hearing a lot of tough stuff, but haven't heard anything official on the record. And of course, we know a lot of people waking up and hearing a lot of rumors heading around, but
yeah,
we want to make sure we get this information correct.
There are so many rumors, and I know you're working hard along with all of our other reporters out there trying to get the very latest. Jennifer, we're going to check back in with you in just a few moments if you can stick around. That is the latest from 13 WHAM News. We continue with more local news. Rochester CW. We'll see you there. Thank you for joining us. We continue with our breaking news from Webster this morning. We have been showing you live video of a fire that is now burning 2 homes on Lake Road. 191 was the source of the original fire, and then reports that an unknown shooter began shooting at firefighters as they began to respond to that house fire this morning. Evan Dawson and Jennifer Johnson are out this morning along with a host of other reporters. Jennifer was on the phone a moment ago. She joins us again. And Jennifer, tell people where you are in relation to this fire right now.
right, I'm in Seabreeze, like literally on the west side of the outlet bridge.
Okay.
The pictures you've been seeing have been coming from the Webster side. I have a slightly different vantage point. Seeing an awful lot of thick smoke, as you know you're seeing at home too. What I'm seeing on this side is an awful lot of emergency responders waiting and wondering. Hearing a lot of talk about, news that's not good, but we don't have anything official right now. We are seeing some evacuees brought over to this side. Again, haven't been able to get real close. You've been hearing it's a very active situation, so they try to keep everyone safe. As for the public, do not come down here if you can. We are seeing some folks who are obviously curious, pulling into the parking lot right near, like Pick and Nerves, for example.
Right, down by Seabreeze there, yeah.
Seabreeze Amusement Park. But, you're really not allowed to be close like we are right now. And again, even where you are, everyone's saying, you know what, you really need to be careful where you are.
Jennifer, I know.
Again,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just,
It
right
is.
now I'm looking out. I'm seeing some firefighters just comforting one another.
Right.
Right. It's a tough scene, Norma. It's a tough scene.
And I know you're there where those firefighters are, Jen, and they're comforting one another because, and this is according to the fire marshal from Webster, that at least one firefighter was injured, but there remain the possibility that there are others, a good likelihood, Jen. And I know that what you're seeing is those firefighters comforting one another.
They're comforting other and also trying to get a job done at the same time. Again, we have some evacuees coming out, and also these firefighters trying to support the effort as they can in any way to try to figure out who this person might be.
Yeah, that's the
if this actually moves over to this side of the bridge, we just don't know at this point.
Yeah.
So everyone, Border Patrol is here, State Police is here, SWAT team is here, everyone is here, anyone who can possibly help. Again, right now, just really waiting some confirmation of information, which right now they're just trying to do their best to get a hold on the situation.
It is difficult to get that information. Like you said, Jen, you're being kept, Evan is being kept a distance away for your own safety, of course, as well as all of those involved who are bringing the story. What you're looking at right now, folks, is video from across the scene, across the way there. In Webster, our live truck not able to move, one of the first on the scene, if not the first, able to bring you a live picture from the scene, according to Evan Dawson. The fire marshal, at this point, unable to confirm a lot of information. I know that, and Jen, you may be hearing as well, that the shooter is still missing. We don't know where that person is. We don't know who they are or why they started doing this, but Evan said that the fire marshal told him in 23 years of being on the job, he has never seen firefighters put in harm's way in this manner, where they were being fired upon. And I can only imagine that you're hearing that same sentiment or seeing it there where you are. And of course, if you're just joining us, there were reports this morning of a fire. It has now spread to 2 homes. What you're looking at is that fire scene, 2 homes burning right now. Firefighters have abandoned the scene. For their own safety, earlier this morning around 6 o'clock, a report of a fire at a home on Lake Road. Jennifer, I know you're trying to get as much information as you can, and we'll let you go do your work. And I know you're staying in touch with us by email this morning, and of course we'll check back with you in just a bit. But again, a shooter began firing upon those firefighters this morning for whatever reason we don't know. There's still so many questions. Just a horrific scene for those firefighters who put themselves in harm's way every day to keep us safe. We're going to take a break. Actually, we're going to turn now to meteorologist Marty Snyder, if we can, for a look at that forecast. So many of you today traveling to be with your loved ones. And what will the weather hold for you? Marty has the answer.
Well, thanks, Norma. For today, it looks like we do have a fairly quiet day weather-wise in store for us. You can see all the moisture still well down to our south. For us, it's mainly just going to be a lot of cloud cover that we'll see for a lot of the day. But this system down to our south right now will affect us. It's mainly this one segment that sticks out on the very western fringe of it. That will pass through as we head into the overnight, causing a little quick burst of snow. Could see up to 1 inch of accumulation on the ground during that time frame. So not a big amount of snow, but mainly a lot of that centered during the overnight hours of tonight. During the day, it looks like we'll keep it pretty quiet. Again, some limited sun, otherwise quite a few clouds. Temperatures today getting back into the 30s for highs, mostly low to even mid-30s during the afternoon. Temperatures right now mainly ranging for the most part in the 20s, mostly mid-20s to upper 20s. A couple areas holding out in your 30, especially east of town right now. So as we go through the day, we'll keep at least a lot of cloud cover in place. Could be a few more breaks in the clouds during the morning versus the afternoon, but still a lot of cloud cover overall. And it looks like most of the day will be precipitation free. A little different story heading into tonight. Notice even at 8 o'clock, still most of that activity down to our southwest and away from us. But overnight, we'll see a few occasional snow showers pass through. Again, up to an inch of new accumulation is possible during that time frame. And then heading into Christmas Day itself, we'll see a lot of that activity move out. Mainly cloudy skies during that time period, with most temperatures tomorrow holding still pretty close to the 30s. We still have to watch later in the week, mostly the midweek to late part of the week, for another storm that makes its way up along the East Coast after being down to our south. Likely sometime Wednesday night is when we'll see more of a widespread type snow across the area. Still too early to talk accumulation amounts at this point, but still looks like that could be a fairly significant accumulation. Is still a possibility during that time frame. Still a lot of questions. Could even see some milder air work in. Could even get some mixed precipitation out of that as well. Still, we're going to keep an eye on that data and keep you updated as that draws closer. But today, 34 for a high, down to about 30 tonight. Again, a quick inch of snow overnight tonight. And then holding in the 30s for highs for the next few days. Expect at least that chance of more snow as we head into Wednesday night into Thursday. And then from Friday into the weekend, temperatures hold from 30 to the upper 20s for those high temperatures. Now back to Norma.
All right, Marty, and we're hearing from you on Facebook this morning about this breaking news of a fire at a home on Lake Road. 191 Lake Road was where the original call came for help this morning at 6 o'clock. When firefighters arrived on the scene, firefighters are able to confirm someone began shooting at them. We know one firefighter was shot at, was able to drive away from the scene in his own vehicle. He was able to go to the hospital where he was treated. It is unclear if there are other victims. Many of you on Facebook have been reporting seeing helicopters flying over your home. We know Mercy Flight was dispatched to the scene to bring the victims to the hospital. Some of you reporting seeing SWAT team members as well, because at this point it is unclear the whereabouts of that shooter. We have not been able to confirm the whereabouts of that person. We continue to wait for more information as that fire continues to burn, now burning 2 homes. And of course, the fear is that that fire will continue to rage out of control. We're going to take a break and come back with more information for you. Of course, check Facebook and as well at 13wham.com and Twitter for the very latest on our breaking news. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us. We continue with our breaking news this morning from Webster. A horrific scene this morning as firefighters responding to the call of a fire at a home on Lake Road near Bay Road, 191 Lake Road to be exact, were fired upon by an unknown shooter. It is not clear who that person is. We do know that at least one firefighter was struck by that gunman, was by a bullet, was able to get out of the scene, get away from the area in his own vehicle and able to be treated at the hospital. It is unclear if there are other victims. There were reports that there may be multiple victims. The fire marshal of Webster not commenting on that. It's not out of the realm of possibility that there may be other victims. We do know that Mercy Flight was dispatched to the scene to bring victims to the hospital again, but no official word about those victims. In a situation like this, where so much is going on at one time, imagine a fire now burning out of control because those firefighters had to get away from the scene for their own safety, had to let this fire to continue to burn itself out, hopefully. But now we're told there are 2 homes on fire. The homes in that area, according to Evan Dawson, many of them are unoccupied, but at this point it's not clear if the home where the fire started was occupied at the time. This vantage point from what you're seeing here is because of our live truck, which was able to get into the area before it was blocked off and able to bring you this information, this video right away, and our reporters are being kept a safe distance away. Evan Dawson and Jennifer Johnson, as well as Evan White and Sean Carroll, they're all out reporting this morning on different aspects of the situation. We do know the Sheriff's Department is investigating the whereabouts of that shooter. Unclear at this point where that person is, who they are, why they were shooting. So many unanswered questions at this point. But again, what we can confirm for you is what we're able to tell you, that one firefighter injured, treated at the hospital. And at this point, that fire is continuing to burn out of control. And as Evan Dawson is hearing from the fire marshal, that fire will continue to seek fuel and just keep burning. But they had to evacuate the area for their own safety. Don't go down there. I know Jennifer Johnson reporting a lot of people were headed down to Seabreeze to try and see what they can. It is unsafe. Do not go down there. That area has been blocked off and will continue to be blocked off as police continue their investigation. But we do know that it was the West Webster Fire Department that was the first on the scene. And that fire department now dealing with an injury of one of their own. And again, not clear if there are any others who were injured. Still so much that is still coming out of this scene, and we're unable to bring you very much because, again, that information needs to be confirmed. We're hearing a lot of rumors. So many of you on Facebook this morning telling us what you're seeing, some of you hearing and seeing Mercy Flight helicopters overhead to bring those victims to the hospital. Some of you reporting seeing SWAT, members of the SWAT team in and around your properties. But at this point, we cannot tell you much more until we get that confirmation from firefighters and and police officers on the scene. But just a horrific scene for those firefighters on Christmas Eve. Many of them were with their families before they called out to this fire this morning, and now they were the ones who were in harm's way twice, doubly. One because of that fire, and second because of that shooter. So many unanswered questions, and just a horrific way to start the day. We're going to take a break from that story, and as soon as we learn more, we will bring it to you live on this broadcast and as well on 13WAN.com for all the latest, and on Facebook and Twitter. Now covering our breaking news from Webster this morning. We've been bringing you this information all morning long, but if you're just joining us, here's what we know. Firefighters say around 6 o'clock this morning, they responded to a house fire at 191 Lake Road near Bay Road. And that is when they say someone began shooting at them as they attempted to fight that fire. One firefighter was injured and was able to drive himself away from the scene, get himself away from the scene in his own vehicle. Evan Dawson is standing by live via telephone this morning. Evan, as you speak, we're going to continue to show the images of those now 2 homes burning because, as you said earlier, those firefighters had to abandon the scene to get away for their own safety, right?
Yeah, just imagine firefighters showing up to fight a house fire and someone starts shooting at them. And obviously they had to get away from there, and they cannot fight that fire that you are seeing until the scene is secure and clear. And the last we've heard, and again, we're telling you what we know from police and firefighters, the last we heard is that the shooter's still at large and that it's a very active investigation. So until firefighters get it all clear, they can't get to those houses. 2 houses now burning. I asked the fire marshal if there's concern about a third house burning, or if there's concern that it could spread to more houses, and he said yes. This kind of a fire is just looking for fuel, and if we can't fight it, it will get stronger. So there is a concern that it will go farther and wider. So, when it comes to the injured firefighters, one firefighter shot in the backside. He's in satisfactory condition and strong. There were early reports that at least one other, maybe 2 other firefighters were also shot and were airlifted to strong. Right now, the fire marshal is choosing not to comment on that, and we certainly don't want to read into any of that, but that is a very concerning situation there. And when it comes to who lived in that house, we're told there are some vacant homes in the area. They don't know if this was one of them or if this was an occupied family home. We're still waiting to find out, Norma.
Yeah, and that's the big question mark. Jennifer Johnson was, she's on the Seabreeze side of this scene this morning, and she said that she witnessed firefighters comforting one another because of this horrific situation. This is a photo that she was able to snap from the scene this morning near the scene where she is at Seabreeze, and you can see that black smoke from such a long distance. People reporting to us this morning that they're able to see and hear the sirens. You're seeing the helicopters, even seeing members of the SWAT team around their properties. Evan, I know that the fire marshal did not talk about the unknown shooter, the person who began shooting. That's still in question, right?
It is. I asked if they knew who lived in the home or if anyone did, just based on an address in the check. By now, you figure that someone in the investigation knows that, but if they do, they are not sharing it. So they're not telling us that this was vacant or if this was a home that, was occupied by a single resident or a family. None of that is confirmed for us at this point.
Yeah, and as you can see from this video, our live truck was able to get in place before that area was shut down to traffic. And as you said, Evan, at this point, you said perhaps 3 homes now burning, right? You said the fire marshal and those on the scene telling you that that's a possibility, considering that this fire has been burning out of control now for, goodness, over an hour and a half now.
Yeah, and again, what you're seeing, let me just state again that I can only confirm that there are 2 homes burning. We even saw wires and different flashes and pops as the fire spread from that first home to the second. If there is a third one spreading, that certainly was a concern of the fire marshal. I can't see the area, and I haven't talked to him to get a confirmation of that. So that's possible, but at least 2 are burning.
Okay, so again, Evan Dawson reporting live from the scene there. I know, Evan, you'll bring us the very latest as soon as you can. Those of you who are following us on Facebook and Twitter are able to tell us what you're seeing. I know so many of you have done that, and as you continue to see things, please let us know. But at this point, as Evan said, there's still a lot that we need to confirm, and we're unable to because those first responders, those emergency responders are busy. They have a lot on their hands, and they continue to try and deal with this. And this is unprecedented for many firefighters who they respond to fires almost every day and have never been fired upon or put in the way of danger as they have this morning. But again, this happened around 6 o'clock this morning at that home on Lake Road 191 to be exact. Not far from the swing bridge down by Seabreeze this morning. And again, those firefighters fired upon by an unknown shooter. And at this point, there are 2 investigations going on. We've got the searching for that shooter and as well as dealing with this fire as well. We'll bring you the very latest. We're going to take a break and we'll come back. Stay with us. We continue following our breaking news this morning from Webster this morning, where firefighters say they responded to a fire at a home on Lake Road this morning when someone began shooting at them. This is a live look at the scene this morning as that fire continues to burn out of control. We do know that one firefighter was shot, able to remove himself from the scene in his own vehicle, able to drive away to the hospital where he was treated. At this point, it is not clear how many other victims there are. There were initial reports that there were multiple people injured in this situation. It is not clear where the shooter is this morning. That is what Monroe County Sheriff's deputies are working on. We do know the SWAT team is on the scene along with other emergency responders. The firefighters at that scene tell us that the fire has now spread to 2 homes. They had to abandon the scene. They had to remove themselves from there because it was unsafe for them, and they will stay away until it is safe for them to continue fighting that fire. But right now we're dealing with a situation where we have 1 firefighter injured, possibly more, and the shooter unknown where they are at this point. We're gonna continue to bring you the very latest on 13wham.com as well as Facebook and Twitter. Be sure to join us there, and we'll see you in just a bit. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we continue to follow breaking news from Webster this morning, where firefighters responding to a house fire at 191 Lake Road near Bay Road were fired upon by an unknown shooter. It is not clear where that shooter is. According to firefighters on the scene, one firefighter was shot and able to get away, taken to the hospital where he was being treated. According to public relations folks over at Strong Memorial Hospital this morning, they can confirm that 2 firefighters are being treated at Strong Memorial this morning after that incident. This is a live look at the scene, that fire burning out of control at this point. Firefighters had to retreat from the scene due to their own safety, concerns for their own safety. And at this point, we know there are 2 homes burning, possibly 3, and we continue to await more information. We do know that people were evacuated from those homes and taken to another area over at Seabreeze there. RTS buses have arrived at that other location to keep those emergency crews and those evacuees safe. This is a photo that was sent to us by Jennifer Johnson, who is at Seabreeze this morning and is following the situation from there. We expect to get a report from her in just a moment. But according to Evan Dawson, who spoke to the fire marshal this morning, the fire marshal said that in his 23 years of being on the force, he has never seen something like this, where firefighters were put in harm's way by someone meaning to do them harm. So unprecedented, and just a horrific scene this morning as those firefighters responding, doing their job, were fired upon by an unknown shooter. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the very latest. And of course, you can go to 13wham.com, Facebook, and Twitter for all the updates. Stay with us. Welcome back. We continue to follow breaking news this morning from Webster, where firefighters from the West Webster Fire Department told us that they responded to a fire this morning around 6 o'clock when someone, as they responded to that fire, began shooting at them. One firefighter was injured. 2 are being treated at the hospital this morning. Mercy Flight was dispatched to the area to remove the victims. At this point, it is not clear how severe these injuries are. We do know one firefighter was shot at and was able to get away from the scene and take himself to the hospital where he was treated. He got into his own car, as a matter of fact. This is a live look right now at the scene. 2, possibly 3 homes now on fire. Firefighters had to remove themselves from the scene for their own safety, and they are not at the scene at this point as they continue, as police officers continue the investigation this morning. We have several crews on the scene: Evan Dawson, Jennifer Johnson, and other reporters who are out there this morning, Evan White, trying to get as much information as we can to bring it to you. But a lot is unconfirmed at this point, and a lot of rumors are going around. So we won't, of course, report those until we're able to confirm the veracity of what is being said on social media. You can, of course, stay tuned with us right here on Rochester CW, as well as 13wham.com, Facebook, and Twitter as well. All right, welcome back. We continue to bring you the latest information on this fire at a home on Lake Road in Webster. Lake Road, 191 Lake Road near Bay Road. Firefighters, the West Webster Fire Department, reporting to us this morning that as they responded to that house fire, someone began shooting at them. They moved away from the scene, and the fire continues to burn out of control this morning. It is not clear the whereabouts of that shooter. It is not clear who this person is, where they are. We do know that there are at least 2 firefighters at the hospital being treated this morning. One firefighter was shot at and was able to get away from the scene and was able to drive away in his own vehicle. The concern now is that that fire continues to burn out of control, as well as the concern as to the whereabouts of the shooter. There's a lot of information that is flying around this morning on social media. A lot of it is unconfirmed. So we are being very cautious and careful as to what we bring you. We bring you the confirmed information that we are able to gather from the scene. Now, what you're looking at, of course, is that scene. Our live truck operator and photographer were able to get in that area, set in place before it was shut down to traffic. Our other reporters are nearby. This is video from earlier this morning as that fire continued to burn. There were flashes of light. We're not sure what those were at the scene. It kind of looked like maybe that there was gas, igniting at that point. Evan Dawson has been on the scene all morning long, as has been Jennifer Johnson and a host of other reporters. Evan, have you been able to speak at all anymore to the fire marshal who gave you quite a significant update just a little while ago?
No, and in fact, Norma, they're expecting that fire marshal to be back here where I am at 9 a.m. to give us an update.
Okay.
And you're seeing a large gathering of media here, and I would presume we're going to see other Channel 13 crews coming up here, because at 9 a.m. we're going to hear news from the fire marshal on where the investigation is and
right.
what they do. I do want to address an important point on the safety and health of the firefighters. As you said, they show up at 6 a.m. to fight the fire, and they start getting shot at. At least one was shot, and we're told shot in the buttocks. That firefighter was able to drive himself in his personal vehicle away from the scene. He did not drive himself to the hospital, though. He had to be transported to the hospital by ambulance, but he was able to get out of that scene on his own, and he's in satisfactory condition. The hospital confirms there is a second firefighter being treated, but again, we do not know, or at least cannot confirm severity of that, and once we do, we will bring it to you, but it now appeared that at least 2 firefighters were shot when they showed up here on the scene, and they're going to have to let the fires burn until they get some sort of confirmation that they are safe to fight the fires, Norma.
Right. And Evan, a lot of those firefighters being kept away from the scene this morning. I know you talked about that some of those homes had to be evacuated. Some, you said, were unoccupied. Some did have people in them. Some were. Some of those folks are now at Seabreeze this morning, where Jennifer Johnson reporting earlier that RTS buses were brought in to keep those evacuees and those firefighters warm, because they've been out there all morning long. And I know that there's still a lot that is still unconfirmed, but as you just said there, and I know we're going to let you get back there, and I know in about 15 minutes you said you'll get that update. Evan, you'd mentioned what the fire marshal said that was something very poignant, and I want you to repeat that. Speaking to the horrific nature of this in his 23 years of being on the force, he said something very poignant.
Well, I asked if he has ever encountered his fire crews finding resistance when they arrived on the scene to help people, to fight a fire. I'm not even talking about being shot at. I mean, that is an extreme that is hard to imagine. I'm talking about encountering any resistance at all. And he said in 23 years it has never happened. In 23 years he cannot imagine even recalling anything like a scenario where firefighters show up to try to help people, to try to put out a fire, and all of a sudden their lives are in danger. It's just about a horrifying situation, as you can imagine, and now it jeopardizes the entire neighborhood, homes in that area, other families who might live nearby. It is truly devastating.
Yeah, I know that, and you mentioned that at least 2 homes burning, but that fire just continues to burn, Evan. It's now tons of smoke. The fire is now less than it was earlier, but again, the concern is that that fire could continue to spread, and I know that that's the concern of those firefighters, like you just mentioned. Evan, we'll let you go, and we'll let you get back to work there. I know you've got to talk to some folks and are trying to gather more information. Thank you so much, Evan.
You got it.
Again, as Evan said this morning, this is a scene that this morning began with a report of a fire around 6 o'clock at that home on Lake Road when that unknown shooter began to fire at the officers. This is video from earlier this morning. Our live truck was able to get in place before the roads were shut down. And as you heard Evan say, one firefighter was shot at. He was able to get away from the scene in his own vehicle, but then was taken to the hospital by ambulance and was being treated this morning. There are at least 2 firefighters being treated. It is not clear how severe their injuries are. But this is the scene now, some almost 3 hours later. The fire continuing there to burn. You see that it is still an active fire scene. But those firefighters had to remove themselves for their own safety. So many of you on Facebook and Twitter telling us what you're seeing and what you know. And again, there's so much that needs to be confirmed, and we are working to get that information confirmed for you this morning. As soon as we find out more, we will bring it to you. But again, if you see anything, if you hear of anything and are able to let us know, you can, of course, always reach us at the newsroom and email us. Jennifer Johnson is reporting reporting from a different vantage point this morning. She is over by Seabreeze, where firefighters are now gathering and comforting one another, of course, because their own members of the West Webster Fire Department were injured in this. And again, they're just a horrific situation for these firefighters. On Christmas Eve, they're with their families, and then they're called away to respond to this fire, and then they end up being shot at. Just awful. Jennifer Johnson joins us live now. As I said, she joins us from Seabreeze this morning, where we're getting a different picture of what's been going on all morning long. Jennifer, I know you've been out there talking to folks out there, and you've been sending us photos as well. Jennifer, what can you tell us?
Well, the color of the smoke has changed.
Yeah.
Wondering if they're now able, again, not able to get close to it, so I can't see for myself, but just wondering if they were able to get some water on it. I'm curious. Excuse me, I've been running around. Also, a big truck from the airport fire department has arrived. It's still here in Evacuee, so it's not in there fighting the fire yet. Mm-hmm. But there's a thought, of course, at some point to, maybe put out these hot spots, potentially put out this fire, but this is still a scene where fighting this fire is not the priority. It seems like it's still trying to, figure out what exactly happened, who's responsible, and how are the people involved. There has been like a SWAT-type truck ferrying back and forth across the outlet bridge. Seeing it come right now, from what I was told earlier, that we're bringing evacuees, potentially people who have been there fighting it. Barricades been put up now, so we're not able to get as close anymore. But inside that barricade is the RTS bus, which took a picture of it, sent in earlier.
Yeah.
A place to warm officials. It's really cold out here.
Yeah.
So, let me see. What am I seeing here? A opportunity to people who may have been evacuated from their home. And again, you have dozens and dozens, well, should say maybe a dozen agencies out here fighting this fire, so a place to keep them warm as well. We are seeing a lot of stuff, not really being given any information, as right now the priority is just to get this thing under control. I will tell you, I have some friends, some neighbors who live along the Evacuee side of the Bay Bridge, sort of right near Vic and Irv in the Seabreeze area, that little strip, right near the park. They're still all in their homes. They have not been evacuated on this side. So even though this is a very active situation, seems as mostly focused on the Webster side.
Right.
But, most people just coming down saying, this is just hard to believe, especially on a day like today.
Yeah, and again, there's so much, Jen, you may be hearing rumors as well, and it's so hard in this situation as a journalist to, to hear all this information, but yet we've not been able to confirm it, and so that's the frustrating thing at this point, I know, for you and for all the reporters on the scene. But again, we want to make sure that we bring the most accurate, of course, above all else, information out there.
I'll just tell you this, Norma. You grew up in this community. I've been here more than 10 years. You get to know from either responding to incidents or, good times, 4th of July parades or, awards banquets. And so a lot of familiar faces, a lot of sad faces, and a lot of folks just saying, Jennifer, it's not good. Mm-hmm. And, offering a hug. So trying to figure out exactly what that means, but
you hit the nail on the head, though, Jen. You mentioned that. We've come to know these firefighters through our many years on the job. Jen, I know you've probably done some work with the West Webster Fire Department. I've done emceed events for the West Webster Fire Department. They are our community's heroes, and these are the men and women who respond to those fires without fear for their own safety, without concern at this point. And then they go to this fire doing their job, and then they're shot at. And I can only imagine the emotion that you must be witnessing on the part of those there. It must be very overwhelming. And like you said, at this point, you've got this fire now burning, and it looks, Jen, from our vantage point, I'm looking at the live shot right now, it looks like the fire is not as big as it was before. Appears to possibly be dying out. We don't know. But, from our vantage point, that's what it looks like.
From, neighboring departments who, they're not necessarily needed at the scene because right now, from what we're hearing, basically a SWAT police situation. Yeah. They're filling in for departments who maybe are responding here at the scene, but a lot of them I've spoken to either seen them stop by their department and they're just saying, I wish there was something I could do.
Yeah.
I wish there was something that I could do. And now everyone's wondering because they all know each other. They all work together.
It is a tight-knit community.
And, yeah, you know, they're moms and dads. They have kids. They're, you know, brothers and sisters.
Jen,
you know, they've got families.
Jen, we appreciate you bringing us the latest information. Evan said there's a press briefing at 9 o'clock this morning, and of course we'll get that information and bring you the very latest right here on Rochester CW, 13WHAM, 13WHAM.com, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We continue to follow breaking news this morning from Webster, where West Webster Fire Department on the scene of a fire this morning around 6 o'clock were shot at as they responded to that house fire at 191 Lake Road. The shooter, at this point, it is unclear where they are. We continue to learn more information. There is a press briefing coming up in just about 3 minutes, and we're going to bring you that live right here on 13WHAM, so be sure to stay tuned to that information. We do know that at least two firefighters were injured in this. It is not clear the severity of their injuries at this point, but there are multiple agencies on scene. Firefighters had to let that fire burn out of control because for their own safety, they were removed from the scene this morning. There's a lot of information that we hope to get confirmed in just about 3 minutes, and please stay tuned to 13WHAM.com and 13WHAM. We're going to have that press briefing live this morning. We're going to toss it over now to Marty Snyder, who is here with a look at that weather forecast.
Well, thanks, Norma. For today, we'll continue with a lot of cloud cover for much of the day. We'll get up to about 34 for a high this afternoon. Tonight, down to 30 for a low. Some scattered snow showers. Could see up to an inch of accumulation overnight tonight, and that should be about it. Into Christmas Day, we begin to see the snow showers taper, 32 then. Some steady snow arriving as we head into Wednesday night. We'll have to watch that system closely, as there could be a fair accumulation out of that, and then temperatures slide back into the upper 20s once again for highs by the upcoming weekend. Now back to Norma. We have an update coming up at 9 o'clock. Be sure to stay tuned right here on 13WHAM for the very latest on this fire and shooting at a home on Lake Road in Webster. Stay with us. According to the police chief, 33 people were evacuated from that area. They've not been able to get into the homes to see if there are any other victims. There was some pursuit on foot, according to the police chief of the shooter. That shooter found dead outside in the proximity of the home. But again, that's all they're really saying about that. And again, no names of that shooter at this point, just the names of the two who were killed and those two firefighters who were injured.
And one of the more disturbing aspects of all this, the chief going into detail about how this was possibly planned by design, the home set on fire, the shooter knowing that firefighters would arrive. They don't know where the bullets started coming from. And of course, the firefighters not prepared to handle that kind of attack on them. Three were actually shot. They were pinned down at the scene. One was able to run away.
And get away in his own vehicle.
Get away. And then when they went in afterwards, when they finally stopped hearing the shooting, they found the shooter was shot. They don't know whether he had killed himself or not. We're going to learn a lot more about the shooter. I'm going to go back to Sean here because we do know, again, we want to be very clear, Sean, that we don't know if the person who owned the home is the shooter. However, we do have information on the homeowner.
Exactly.
We will, and let me just briefly add to some of the description we just learned from that press conference. As Adam said, a trap being set, according to Webster Police. We had 4 firefighters initially responded that took fire. 2 were on an engine, the other 2 arriving in private vehicles. Also a brief note that the chief saying that an off-duty Greece police officer, I believe the name John Ritter, we will again get a spelling there, also took some shrapnel as he was in the area passing by. Now, to Adam's point, we learned a bit more about the property through public records. The chief not saying who the suspected deceased gunman is or if there's any connection to these properties. But looking back into our archives, we found footage from 1980 that you see there, 191 and 193 Lake Road. We know at the time that a William Spengler lived at 191 and found his grandmother, 92-year-old Rose Spengler, dead at 193. Spengler convicted a year later of manslaughter, first degree, serving 17 years in the New York State Department of Corrections, completing that term and being released in 1998. He was then, of course, paroled and cleared parole in 2006. Again, just background info based on public records, prison records, what we've learned about the property, and the person, William Spengler, who, as I understand it, still has the deed to that property.
We should just also let you know, too, that Lake Road between the Irondequoit Outlet Bridge and Bay Road will be closed until further notice. This just coming into our newsroom a moment ago. So don't go near that area for any reason whatsoever. You will not be allowed in. That is an active scene, an active crime scene, and firefighters continue to try and put out the embers of that fire that destroyed 4 homes there this morning. And I can't even imagine how they're working, how any of those firefighters are working, knowing that 4 of their own were injured and killed.
These are household names, guys. As we were sitting here watching that briefing right from this desk, texts are coming in from people who know these individuals, who live next door, who live across the street. I mean, they're firefighters, they're police officer in one case. They are well known in this community, and we know we're going to have a lot of more information pouring in.
Yeah, and of course we continue on, and we hope you stick around, Sean, because we have Jennifer Johnson and Evan Dawson are standing by at the scene right now, and they're able to bring us the very latest. Evan and Jen, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Norma.
Evan, I don't ever recall seeing a more emotionally wrenching press conference like that. That was, he was gutted. He really was. Chief Pickering there. Heartbreaking to watch that.
Okay, thanks. No, I couldn't agree with you more, Norma. That was about as difficult a scene as you will imagine, and you get a sense for just how close people in law enforcement and community service are. This is a volunteer firefighter, but Mike Ciparini is someone that we met just last Tuesday on our Crime Stopper segment. Yes, and so Lieutenant Ciparini is someone who is very, very well known in Webster's, worked for the Webster Police Department, and as Chief Pickering said, spent his career as a volunteer firefighter and dedicated to community service, so extremely emotional. And then the other name that we have of the deceased is Tomas, and Jennifer, the last name is Kazuka. Tomas Kazuka, another, according to the chief, just a young man dedicated to service, you know, with a career ahead of him. So that was as difficult a scene as you will ever see at a news conference. I would agree with that, Norma.
Yeah, Evan, I know that the spelling, and so many people have been asking about the names. Have you been able to spell the name of Fireman Kazuka?
Kazuka, we're awaiting spelling.
Okay, we're awaiting the spelling. Okay,
we'll have that in a moment.
We don't want to do any dishonor to his name or to his family who may be watching, or any of his friends or anyone who knows him. We're just wanted to make sure we point that out to people.
And Evan, one point that I did want to have you touch on here, they're saying that investigators haven't even been able to get into the house, which is important because we don't know if anyone was inside the house when it started to go on fire there.
That's correct, and despite what you may be seeing all over social media and other sources, I think it would be wise just to wait to get more confirmation on what police do know and what they can confirm. All they are saying is that the shooter is dead, the threat is over, the neighborhood is safe. They had evacuated 33 homes, and that 4 homes had burned, a vehicle had burned, and that now they're able to get the situation under control because the shooter is dead. You also heard the chief say they don't know what kind of weapon yet, but they have recovered them. So whether they don't know or they're not saying is one thing, but the point is, he said he understands at this point. A lot of people are going to ask, was it an assault rifle? Was it, what kind of weapon was it? He said he cannot say at this point. Yeah. I'm certain, certainly we're going to hear more about that later today. What
about the aspect of the possibility that a trap had been set? The chief did mention that. He touched on that briefly.
Yeah, that was one of the first questions many of us had, is that this, it just has all the look of it, but you don't want to make an assumption. It looks like a fire was set, and then immediately firefighters are attacked. When they arrive, it looks, for lack of a better term, like a trap. But the chief said they are, in his words, chasing down many angles to this. They're trying to find out, was there a connection between the shooter to anyone in the fire department? Was there any strife or altercation in the past that they're aware of, and was this any sort of a trap? He said there's just a lot they don't know. They are chasing down leads, but they couldn't say any more than that right now.
Nevin, you've been on scene all morning. We saw the black smoke go to white smoke. Are they making progress on those 4 homes that were engulfed? They were saying 4 others damaged.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Adam. You may know better than I can, because especially where we have been set up at this school today, and Jennifer Johnson's going to touch on this in a moment here, it has been difficult to get a vantage point of exactly what we saw. The video that we had, the live pictures from our live truck this morning, was remarkable in its angle that you could see. It's more than we can see where the police have stationed us. So I can only tell you that they think they're going to get everything under control, but as to the extent of it right now, I can't tell you.
All right. Evan Dawson, thanks. We will certainly head back to you when we get a chance for more information.
Reiterate the names of those involved. And according to Police Chief Pickering, you have Lieutenant Mike Ciparini, who was a public information officer for the West Webster Police Department, as well as a volunteer firefighter. You have Tomas Petrufka.
Is it Kazuka?
Well, we're hearing different pronunciations, and the names and the spellings have yet to be given to us by the officers, and that's very important to point out. So we mean no disrespect to those families or to any of the victims, as well as Theodore Scardino and Joseph Hofstetter. Jennifer Johnson has been out all morning long talking to those first responders since early this morning, and she joins us now live with the latest. Jennifer?
I just want to mention something that happened here just a few minutes ago. You saw the news conference a few minutes ago that Evan recapped for you. When it was over, again, Norma, we've covered a lot of news conferences where people come in, do their thing, and they go. People walked in, very heavy hearts. They said what they needed to say. They walked back out, and there was some comforting that went on behind the scenes. I'll leave it at that, as you can imagine. But these are their friends. This is hitting them very hard. Yes, well, the pictures you've been seeing of the burning homes, that is taken from the Webster side of the Outlet Bridge. Morning Live, I've been on the Irondequoit side of the bridge, and it was probably still about 11 o'clock or so that we were still seeing bright orange flames. We'd seen some of the smoke change from black to white for a while, and then it stoked back up. There was a big airport tanker that had been brought in from the airport, big water pumper, that puts water onto the fires. That was kept away for a long time, because as we understand, this was a scary scene, and fighting those fires was sort of almost last priority. You mentioned, was there a trap that was set? We heard from Chief Pickering the quote, "It does appear that it was a trap that was set." What we're hearing from the chief, again, not quite sure who called 911 this morning to this car/home fire, but we were hearing that one engine responded at first with 2 firefighters on board, and then 2 firefighters also responded in their cars. Again, these are volunteers, probably getting this call from home, jumped out of bed, got in their car, and came. I can only imagine we're seeing on the Irondequoit side an SUV that had police tape around it, and from what some folks on the scene were telling us is that was the vehicle that one of the firefighters who had been shot was used to drive himself then out of the scene. Also on the Irondequoit side, you heard 33 people had been evacuated from the different homes, from the neighborhoods. It's cold out there today. RTS brought in a bus for a lot of those evacuees as a place to go. Here it is early in the morning. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Also for the first responders waiting on the other side. It was that armored vehicle that the chief talked about that, brought those neighbors out. It came across the Outlet Bridge, and that's what delivered them to the other side of the bridge. Again, the threat has been eliminated, the chief said. The man deceased at this point. A lot of people wondering, was there any family with him? Was he the one who called 911? We simply don't know at this point. Also awaiting for an identity, a confirmed identity on that person as well. But again, it does appear that it was a trap that was set. It's a hard pill to swallow around here, Norma. It really is. Back to you guys.
I can only imagine that that they don't believe, that they just can't believe that. And that is, it was hard to see the chief and all of those up there get emotional when they got upset, when they read the names of those involved. So thank you so much for... Yes.
Can I mention one more thing? We mentioned the 4 firefighters on the scene. Also wanted to mention an off-duty Greece police officer, I believe, happened to be driving by in the area, and we're told sustained a few injuries from flying shrapnel as well. So that's a person I don't think who had been included in our count. But again, an off-duty Greece police officer, I believe, who happened to be driving by and potentially tried to help in in this situation. Going to try to get some names. I think they're coming in right now. We're going to get those for you, bring them to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, we're getting the names and everything. So thank you, Jennifer, and thanks to Evan out there. And you also see reporter Alexis Arnold out there as well. Kelsey Smith, one of our other reporters, as you can imagine, this is the talk of that community, shocking to all of those who were witnesses to what happened.
Absolutely. You had we're going to go to her now in the newsroom. Kelsey, you have people talking about this across the country, across the world now. This is getting out there. What are people saying actually in the town of Webster?
Well, Adam and Norma, as you can imagine, the Webster community is shaken. Locals tell me it's a quiet town, a place where everyone knows each other, including their firefighters. Eyes were glued to televisions in the Nutcracker family restaurant, looking for updates. Now, I was also told some of the firefighters that had been out on the scene were stopping in that restaurant for a break for some food and to regain thoughts as they headed back out. Customers had the same question. Why? Why would someone kill firefighters, kill anyone, especially on Christmas Eve?
Nothing like that ever happens in Webster. It's a peaceful, loving, wonderful community, and it's a shock that something like this would happen, but for some reason, violence is rearing its ugly head in this community, everywhere. Just so many things like this are happening. It's hard to explain.
More than one person I spoke with did reflect on the Connecticut tragedy and said they could only imagine the heartache they're feeling is what Newtown went through.
All right, Kelsey Smith reporting live from our newsroom this midday. We bring in, once again, reporter Sean Carroll, who did a little digging earlier this morning, a lot of digging, I should say, as far as the history of the property where this happened.
Yeah, we have learned a little bit about, in fact, I just got some more further confirmation from public records that the 191 Lake Road, where we believe this fire initiated, is listed as being in the possession of a William Spengler, Spengler, and that is the same William Spengler who spent 17 years in prison. We got to say, we don't know what, if any, involvement Mr. Spengler or his family had in today's events, just simply that the property involved in this fire is listed as being in his name. The property next door, 193 Lake Road, also obviously involved in this fire, was in his family's name, was in possession of his grandmother many years ago, was deeded over to him, and then passed on to a third party back in 1994. Again, that's just some research, and of course we're all trying to sort of grasp the victims in all this. We've got two people at the hospital that we're all keeping in our minds, and this Lieutenant Chipperini, Mike Chipperini, a lot of us got to know. I especially have worked with him over the last couple of years, and just an outstanding individual. His chief, Gerald Pickering, saying in that press conference, you know, lifetime firefighter, came up through the Explorers program, some 20 years with Webster Police. You see him there, Norma. You literally interviewed him Tuesday, 6 days ago.
He came into the newsroom, as many law enforcement officers do, for our Crime Stoppers report. Lieutenant Chipperini was standing right behind us, and Evan Dawson interviewed him, and you know, we sometimes Evan and I will say, oh, who's going to do the interview today? Do you want to do it? You know, which one of us wants to do it? And Evan said he would do it that day. Never in our wildest imaginations would we ever have thought that would be the last time we'd see him alive.
And just to speak to what a person he was on the crew that went down to Suffolk County after Hurricane Sandy. He was on that unit. He had volunteered. He said, there's trouble there, I want to go.
November 1st, they deployed members of local firefighters, you're saying, and West Webster sent a number of members. He was one of them, signed up, volunteered, helping people not just in this community, but all over the state.
Okay, you can only imagine the scene at the hospital where those two firefighters were taken this morning and remain there. And let's go to Evan White, who is live at Strong Memorial Hospital. Evan, what can you tell us? Set the scene for us.
Well, I can tell you just in a few minutes, we're expecting to hear from the physician that's been treating a couple of these injured firefighters. You can see the University of Rochester Medical Center wallpaper here behind me. We're expecting that just within the next couple of minutes, and we will take that live. But just to give you an idea of what we saw here, we were here earlier this morning for several hours. You saw a marked West Webster Fire vehicle come in and a woman rush out trying to get over to the emergency room. Clearly, a lot of folks, obviously in West Webster, who are worried about what's happening there, and other people I spoke to in the firefighter community, also thoughts and prayers going out to folks who've been affected by this. But we're also learning more about the injured firefighters as far as right now. Hospital telling us the two are in guarded condition. But again, we expect to hear from the trauma physician who has been treating them, and they are expected to speak in just a few minutes. For now, we'll send it back over to you.
All right, Evan, of course, letting us know the very latest, and that's, again, we're hopefully going to find out more about the condition of those firefighters who were injured, and again, the names of those firefighters who were injured, Joseph Hofstetter, as well as, we've got the names here.
Theodore Scardino.
Right, Theodore Scardino.
Yeah, and we got two that you just told us about.
Right, exactly. Tomas Kashuka and Lieutenant Mike Ciparini are the deceased. A difficult day, a horrific, difficult day. That's even putting it mildly for the families and for everyone involved in this. The Webster Fire Chief breaking down as he read the names this midday. And
this from a person who has to give this type of news all the time to people.
So different when it's your own, isn't it?
Absolutely. He could barely get through the names. I think it's important to note that this is the same department, as we've mentioned before, that just last December, dealing with another tragic fire. This one on December 7th. The teen here, Michael Pilato, accused of setting fire to a home inside his father and brothers. All of them died. Again, he's accused. Trial expected next month. It has been a terrible, heart-wrenching year for these guys, and now to have it affect some of their own. Also, not only the loss, which is incredible, but also trying to understand why this happened.
And again, this is where the details read like something that none of us even can believe. According to Chief Pickering, there is the possibility that this was a trap that was set by the shooter, that a fire was set, and that as soon as those firefighters arrived on the scene, the shooter began just shooting at them and drew fire, and those two firefighters were shot and killed. And two were injured. It's not something that any of us can even wrap our brains around, that anything like this would happen to those who run to the emergency. They run to the danger to protect and protect their neighbors.
And this situation just continues to develop. We're looking at the public records. You see two names attached, not just Mr. Spengler, but also a woman by the name of Arlene. So one has to wonder, where is she in all this? They haven't even been able to get into those homes to see if there are any bodies there.
The fire chief, the police chief saying we had 4 homes just destroyed, 4 homes heavily damaged. They are obviously still fighting the scene. I think we still have a live photo at that scene. And of course, they're still trying to get in there to figure out, was anybody still left up there? Is there anybody still in these homes? We are learning a little bit more. We've talked a little bit about Lieutenant Mike Ciparini from Webster PD and for this fire department. Tomas Kashuka, we're learning, a 911 dispatcher, also with West Webster Fire Department. These are men who obviously do multiple duties in this community. You can also imagine, and that's going to be T-O-M-A-S-Z, as in zebra. Kashuka, he also deceased. These are people who they're going to connect to so many different people in this community. You've got the 911 center, you've got the West Webster Police, the law enforcement community, the firefighting community. But again, we're still trying to figure out if anybody's still up there.
And one thing that we noted before, this is on a nice strip on Lake Ontario. You can imagine that there are probably summer homes there. But we're hearing that the 4 homes that were affected, the ones that were engulfed, there were people living there.
Yes, and they had to be removed. And whether or not they got out, we don't know.
We've been talking, and this is a little bit of speculation before we get going here, but we've been talking about what was fueling that fire. We know a lot of those cottages up there, if anybody's familiar, aren't that big, and this thing has been burning, and we still see smoke somewhat 7-8 hours after the fact. Did a fuel line get hit? Were there home heating fuel or things of that nature? Obviously, this is all stuff we're still going to try to track down today.
Yeah, and that's just what firefighters are getting to see now that they're on the scene there and on the ground. All right, we're going to take a break and bring you the very latest when we come come back. Stay tuned to 13 WHAM News, as well as 13wham.com and social media for the latest on this awful situation today in Webster.
Stay with us. Breaking news out of Webster right now. Lake Road, there's been a shooting. 2 firefighters have been killed. We have their names for you now. Mike Ciparini and Tomas Kachuka. Yes, we're working on the pronunciation there.
As well as the 2 that were injured, Theodore Scardino and Joseph Hofstetter. They were shot and are being treated at the hospital right now. And we intend to get an update from the trauma surgeon, the trauma physician on the scene at the Strong Hospital, telling us whatever they can. This is a day of unprecedented sadness for our community. And we're going to turn right now to that press conference at Strong Memorial Hospital.
An event this morning in Rochester involving multiple firefighters. We received 2 of them here. We name them by trauma names when they first come in, but they have been, the 2 patients we received here were Joseph Hofstetter and Scardino. Firefighter Hofstetter came in first, followed shortly thereafter by Firefighter Scardino. Both are significantly injured. They're both in our intensive care unit. Both did sustain gunshot wounds. Mr. Hofstetter sustained injuries mainly to his pelvis, from which there's a reasonably long road to recovery, but we do expect him to recover from these injuries. Mr. Scardino sustained injuries mainly to his left chest. He is also currently in our intensive care unit, but neither gentleman is currently on a ventilator. They're both awake, alert, with good blood pressures. They both have significant injuries, but at this time are in guarded condition in the Kessler Family Burn Trauma Intensive Care Unit. I'll be happy to answer any questions that I'm able to.
How many times were each of them shot?
Mr. Scardino sustained 2 wounds, one primarily to the left shoulder that caused some bad breaks in his scapula and injured his left lung, and he also has an injury to his right knee. Mr. Hofstetter has just the single injury, but it's a complex injury to his pelvis.
Talk about the seriousness of that pelvis injury. Obviously, there's a lot of right there.
Right. So he actually underwent emergency surgery this morning because some of the fragments from the missile did get into his abdominal cavity, and although he was fortunate that it didn't hit intestine, it came very close. He has a very bad injury to his pelvis, a lot of bony injury to particularly the one side of his pelvis. A lot of nerves run in that area, so from a bleeding perspective, pelvis injuries can be significant. So far, he's doing okay, but certainly there can be a bit of a rocky course still with that. And then with the nerve injuries, it takes some time to really delineate what we see. So far, he can move his limb, but we'll need to see what the full extent of that is over the next few days. So with Mr. Scardino, he broke his shoulder blade, the scapula on the left-hand side in multiple places, and that can affect motion of that arm. The missile also traveled through the upper portion of his lung and caused a lot of bruising on that left lung and went very near the blood vessels that go to his left arm. He, at this point, has very good blood flow to his left arm, but the lung injury tends to worsen over the first few days. Much like bruising and injuries in other locations, they expand over the first few days.
How critical?
What kind of weapon do you think was used to cause these kind of wounds?
I really can't comment on that. I mean, my husband actually asked me that sort of question a lot, and I just know that there's holes, and certainly when they hit bone, missiles can get misshapen and changed, so there's no real way to tell from our perspective what exact weapon type made those particular injuries.
Did you remove bullets from both firefighters during surgery?
So no, and actually we don't always remove bullets in the acute setting. It's where TV definitely gets it wrong, but Mr. Scardino has a missile retained in the front part of his chest that eventually will work its way to the surface and may need to be removed, but was not removed at this time, because removing it at this time would actually do more harm than just leaving it alone. For Mr. Hostetter, the missile is actually embedded in one of his spine bones, so that certainly is not removed and likely will never be removed.
Can you explain the hospital response? Did you get sort of an understanding that you were possibly getting multiple trauma patients coming, and how did you prepare for that, and what's sort of the plan that gets put into place?
So, unfortunately, the Kessler Trauma Center is not a stranger to multiple victim casualties, particularly in the last number of years. We did get pre-notification that there were potentially multiple victims of penetrating injury on the way to the hospital. What we do is ensure that there's enough support staff both in the emergency department, the operating rooms are available, the intensive care unit has beds available, so that we can take care of all of those victims as they come in. You know, in this particular instance, we only ended up with 2, but we were absolutely prepared for more.
How much notice did you have?
We got notice on the first victim, Mr. Hostetter, about 25 minutes before he arrived. We knew of there being other victims as soon as that first call came in. So he arrived, probably about 45 minutes after the initial person did.
You mentioned that they're alert and awake. Are they talking to you? Are they able to talk to some of their mates that have come to see them?
Certainly Mr. Scardino has. Mr. Hofstetter's just out of the operating room and is recovering from anesthesia, but has been able to speak with his family. He was able to speak with them even before he went to the operating room.
Can you describe the nature of the recovery and how long will it take and fitness required?
Well, each of them have very different recoveries. For Mr. Scardino, really the main issues are in the short term with the healing on that lung. At this point, he hasn't required surgery on that lung, but that may change depending on how the lung does or does not heal with the level of injury it sustained. He does have a tube in the side of his chest that's draining fluid and other material out of that side right now. With the bony injuries, both the scapular injury for Mr. Scardino and the pelvis injury for Mr. Hostetter, it'll be months with rehab and recovery for those things.
I know Mr. Scardino, you said he spoke a little bit. What is his mental state? Does he have a positive attitude?
His mental state is what you would be expected. He went to work not expecting anything and is now in our intensive care unit significantly injured. I think both of the firefighters have been incredible, but absolutely affected by what's happened to them today.
You said Mr. Scardino was also given the right knee.
Correct.
Can you talk about that injury and how that might affect walking abilities?
So it went through the tissues around his knee and did violate the joint capsule of the knee, but didn't break the bones. With that, he should be able to ambulate on that leg. But there's always worry for infection in the joint capsule because that's a space that's not really supposed to be open. And the orthopedic surgeons are taking him to the operating room to likely wash that out later today.
So he will be operated on that?
For the leg.
And now they're both in intensive care, you said?
Yes.
And so what's sort of the plan? Is it a lot of watching on doctors' parts now to see how they're doing, or what happens now?
So in the Kessler Family Burn Trauma Intensive Care Unit where they're currently housed, absolutely, it's not just the physicians, but our nursing staff. It's a 1-to-2 nursing ratio, which they absolutely need. They're both at risk for bleeding. They're both at risk for other things. They're being monitored for bleeding. They're being monitored for neurologic function for Mr. Scardino, mainly in that left arm, but also with the right leg, and for Mr. Hofstetter, mainly in the leg affected by the pelvis fracture. The respiratory support that Mr. Scardino is needing at this time, he's able to breathe on his own, but he may need further support over the next few days with his pulmonary injury. With both of them, it's hard to know on that very first couple of hours how long they're going to need to be in intensive care and then up on the regular floor, and both will likely need rehab.
How critical was it in terms of the timing, in terms of getting that near?
Sooner is always better in trauma. The fact that it's a little bit colder out can certainly help with neurologic injuries, but is not good for bleeding. and both of those gentlemen were absolutely at risk for bleeding from their injuries. So far, they've done okay.
Did they have any injuries other than the bullet wounds? They were at a fire. Did they burned?
Mr. Scardino has some burn injuries on the back of his head and spots in other places, but they're actually very minor compared to the gunshot wound injuries. The main injuries really are the penetrating injuries they sustained.
And you mentioned an injury to his knee. Did a bullet penetrate that as well? He just was injured in the back.
So no, it is a bullet track that just happened to not enter into his bone. It just went through the skin and the soft tissue, but it hit the side of the joint.
You said they are talking. Have they spoken to investigators about what happened?
I've really just been looking at their medical care, and certainly there have been a lot of people, both firefighters and others, in their room, but I really couldn't say who they've talked to from that respect. That I can't really tell you.
In terms of updates, it's unlikely that we'll have anything further to add to this for a few days at least. But I understand that they have released the names, so you have the names, they'll be in the directory, so you can just call and get condition updates through the regular directory. If you don't know how to do that, just call my office and we'll explain that.
Then from a trauma physician out of Strong Hospital updating us on the 2 firefighters who were injured. I do want to just say, as you probably already know, 2 firefighters never made it to the hospital. They were pinned down. They died at the scene. The 2, though, who made it to the hospital, their names, Joseph Hofstetter, Theodore Scardino. We learned in detail about their injuries.
Yeah, their injuries, very complex. Mr. Scardino has injuries to his left chest. He is in the intensive care unit, sustained injury to his lungs. Neither gentleman is on a ventilator at this point. They are awake, alert, but remain in guarded condition in the burn trauma and the ICU unit at Strong Memorial Hospital. Mr. Hofstetter sustained injury to his pelvis, and according to that physician, he has a very long road to recovery due to the nature of their injuries.
Yeah, and of course, Scardino, the knee and the left chest, one point
right.
that's really got me is that bullet is going to remain in his body for the rest of his life.
Right,
I also didn't hear too much about is we did hear Webster Police Chief Cheryl Pickering explain in his briefing that a 5th person, a Greece police officer off duty by the name of a John Ritter, I believe, we're waiting on a spelling on that, did take some fire, I believe, in his patrol car. Chief Pickering explaining as how a Ritter happened to just be in the area. He was an off-duty Greece police officer and took fire. Shrapnel is the way he described it. It seemed to indicate from Chief Pickering that there was not a direct shot on Mr. Ritter or his vehicle, but that there was some shrapnel and debris that he caught. Obviously, we'll be trying to check on his condition.
Yeah, Sean, we don't want to draw too many conclusions here. However, we hear 2 shots into Scardino, 1 to Hofstetter. We have 2 officers, or 2 firefighters killed, and then that officer fired upon. Clearly, he had at least a gun or guns that could fire multiple shots.
To use the exact words, excuse me, of the police, is they found the gunman deceased with weapon or weapons.
Right,
and the chief did not necessarily speculate, but he did certainly allow us how there could be multiple weapons near the deceased's body. And again, we're still waiting to see who else may be up there. Are there others injured and or deceased at the scene here?
Speaking of which, let's take a look now at the names of those involved in this shooting and fire this morning. We have the names there. The deceased, Lieutenant Mike Ciparini, and
Police Lieutenant
Lieutenant Mike Ciparini, as well as a volunteer firefighter for the West Webster Fire Department. Also, fireman Tomas Koshuka, who, according to Chief Pickering, worked as a 911 dispatcher. The injured, we've just been referring to them. They are Joseph Hofstetter, a West Webster firefighter as well with the Rochester Fire Department, and Mr. Theodore Scardino, who is a West Webster fire dispatcher and firefighter. They remain in the hospital this midday. They're in guarded condition, with each with very different and distinct injuries, but both will require very long months of recovery. And as you heard in the case of Mr. Scardino, that bullet will remain lodged in his chest area. According to the doctor at this point, it could be permanently.
A long road ahead for sure. One of the other points that the doctor pointed out is they asked how they were doing, because they were doing fairly well given their
She
predicament
gave a very
and
good
situation.
answer.
She said they are incredible, but affected by what happened. How could they not be?
How could they have imagined that they would go to a fire and that they would end up in an intensive care unit? They had no inclination that this could have ever happened to them. And again, just so unprecedented.
And word is traveling quick. I mean, just as we've been sitting here taking in these press briefings, I'm getting texts and emails from folks in Albany trying to figure out what's going on. Our website is being hit by people all over the country, if not beyond. Obviously, word is spreading. We talked earlier, I believe, Norma, you noticed that Governor Cuomo had sent out a tweet. I believe the Attorney General's office crafting a statement at this time. Everybody very concerned about all those involved, and of course right here in our community the concern is no higher.
Right. Now clearly the attention was just at the hospital, but a lot of people are still paying attention to the scene itself. You have to remember, it's still a crime scene. That's what we're dealing with over on Lake Road 191, 193 area. Hopefully we'll be able to take a live pic of that soon. Yep, there it is. You see
still pouring water onto that fire.
Yeah, they're going to be there for quite some time, and travel in that area has been shut down. No one being allowed in there at this time as those firefighters work to put out the flames. And if you can imagine that here it is 12:38 in the afternoon. This fire started at 5:35, just before 5:45 this morning, and it burned out of control for hours until they were able to get out there about an hour ago or more to start putting water on those flames.
Yep, 4 buildings completely engulfed, 4 others had some type of damage from this fire. Just incredible. When we were going through the names, and Sean, I'll circle back with you because you know Lieutenant Ciparini so well. These all 3, if not all 4, had day jobs.
Yeah.
This was something that they were doing on their time off to serve. Usually when they get to these types of situations, they're welcomed.
Exactly. They're there to save lives and certainly not be fired upon. The chief saying it was a trap. You mentioned Lieutenant Mike Ciparini. Again, I'm not the only reporter in town who's gotten to know him over the last few years. He's the public information officer, sort of our point of contact from a media standpoint. And as far as public information officers in this county and even our region go, he was as good as you'll get. He understood what we needed from a media standpoint, also understood the protections that perhaps victims or investigations required. There you see video of him right next to our live truck. We've seen him out and about. You could also just tell a certain aura about him, just a good person. That is at a press conference last year. A year ago this month, in fact, a tragic press conference involving that fire also in West Webster. There you have to imagine he knew many of the firefighters. He was responding and acting as a police officer that day, but also knew many of the firefighters on scene there as well. That's Mike Ciparini. We also are learning slowly more about Tomas Kajuka, 911 dispatcher. We're informed.
A young firefighter, according to Chief Pickering, someone whose career was just out and ahead of him, you know, and was doing the work he wanted to do. And you're going to be hearing more and more stories about these firefighters. And again, people on Facebook and social media referring to both victims and just still in shock that they were, you know, with their families this morning. They went out to fight that fire and they never made it home.
Bit of an observation. We were all up very early this morning. We were listening to this on scanners. A lot of folks listening to this on scanners. And we don't report a lot of what we hear on a scanner. Obviously, it's unconfirmed information. It's ongoing. It's very fluid. You don't ever get a complete story. But I can tell from what we were hearing an incredible amount of coordination involved in all these agencies. I mean, you had
what was chaos. I mean, absolute chaos.
You had a fire scene, and you had a shooting scene, and you had a missing shooter. And the amount of coordination it took, I heard multiple dispatches where officers were relaying information to each other, trying to determine, is that shadowy figure I'm seeing, is that a suspect or is that another officer? Can you wave your hand to make sure, you know, if we have a person in camouflage and a person in a position, can we confirm that's a police officer? They cut off areas and access to that area. There's a berm near the water there that was very crucial and obviously needed to be secured. Initial thoughts, maybe some of the initial shots were fired from there.
Yeah, well, that is, again, what the information, we're trying to figure that out. We did hear something about that not that long ago, that there was a figure on a berm and that, you know, that they were shooting at these firefighters. But again, this is just kind of a story that none of us had ever expected. None of us, this is I keep saying the word unprecedented because, you know, these firefighters put themselves in harm's way. They run to the danger, and then they had no clue that what they were running into or responding to would end up ultimately killing two of them.
Right. And we would love, of course, to talk just about the victims and their heroics and all they've done for the community, but we also do have to talk about the shooter. Mainly because we don't know a whole lot about him or her at this point. All we know is that he was waiting. He was waiting for the firefighters to arrive, fired upon them, and then one of the officers responded. There was a brief chase that we know about, and then they found the shooter dead nearby outside the house with a gunshot wound. We don't know whether that was self-inflicted or not.
Again, we're going to piece together more information as soon as we get it. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Out of Webster, we're hearing that 2 firefighters have been shot and killed as they approached a burning home. 2 other firefighters were shot, sent to the hospital. Sean Carroll here. We know personally one of the 2 killed, Lieutenant Mike Ciparini, and another one, a 911 dispatcher.
He's a lieutenant in the Webster Police Department, Mike Ciparini, that is. We also have an active fire scene up there on Lake Road. This all happened in the early morning hours. There's a live picture at Lake Road in West Webster. You can still see plenty of smoke billowing from a number of homes. The police chief saying about an hour ago, 4 homes destroyed, another 4 severely damaged in an early morning fire, and this was something where the first firefighters on scene actually drew fire, gunfire that is.
Absolutely. So you have 2 firefighters dead. We're being told that the shooter is dead as well. That's 3 people. However, we don't know if that's going to be the final count. Once they're able to get that fire you're looking at contained, they're going to send investigators in to see if there's any other bodies inside. This is video from early this morning. The fire has been burning since 5:30 this morning. It is now 12:45. Firefighters have not been able to get in, not only because of the fire, but in the very start of this, they weren't sure whether the shooter was still there, so they just had to let 4 homes burn. Now, we also learned about the 2 firefighters who were injured. We got details about their injuries, the names, Tomas the names of the 2 injured, Joseph Hofstetter and Theodore Scardino, Tomas Kazuka being the other firefighter killed.
We want to point out that these are the names given to us, the names and the spellings given to us by firefighters or by the Webster Police Department. There was initially some question as to how the names were spelled. We have the spellings based on what we're hearing from the police department. There you have Joseph Hofstetter and Theodore Scardino injured, both of them in guarded condition at the hospital. Let's turn now to Evan Dawson, who was at that press briefing, the very emotional press briefing in which the police chief broke down. Evan.
Yeah, I think I want to stress a point that Sean Carroll was making earlier, which is that these agencies know each other so well and they work together so well. Just imagine the scene with firefighters responding to a fire, getting shot, then you've got police coming in, fire still burning, no indication of where the shooter may be. They had to work together today, and some of that interagency work showed up during the news conference. It was Police Chief Gerald Pickering from the Webster Police Department who was talking about Lieutenant Mike Ciparini, who obviously served with him and for him. Ciparini was also a volunteer fire department for many years in Webster, and he was one of the 2 who died today. Take a look at the chief's reaction.
How hard is this?
It's a very difficult situation.
All right, that's Chief Gerald Pickering talking about someone who had become a close friend and someone who the Webster Police Department respected immensely. So just a huge loss of these two firefighters who died today. And this is a situation that sounded a lot like a trap. A fire set, we're saying set, we're assuming set, but a fire breaks out, firefighters show up at a scene, they are targeted and two killed. We asked that question to the chief about whether or not they know this to have been a trap already. Let's take a look at what the chief had to say about that.
It does appear that it was a trap that was set for responding, first responders, but causative reasons we don't have at this time.
So the chief affirming their belief that this was indeed a trap for first responders. It's an investigation that has a lot more work to do. As the chief told us, they are chasing down, in his words, many leads, trying to determine why the shooter decided to set this trap for first responders. Did he know anyone in the department? Did he serve in the department? Did he have any connections there? We can speculate all we want, but until we hear more from police, that's all it would be. They have a lot of work to do on a tragic and difficult day for this department. We will continue to have complete coverage on 13wham.com, guys, and for now, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Evan Dawson, thanks. Not a lot of time to mourn because they do have that investigation. Fortunately,
right, they have to go right back to work after having to deal with the death of two of their own and the injuries of two of their own as well. We've been talking about the victims in this case, the deceased, I should say, Fireman Tomas Kashuka and Lieutenant Mike Ciparini. Those two men with ties in our community that go back a long ways. Lieutenant Ciparini and Sean Carroll talking about the interaction that we have had in media, all of us, Tomas Kashuka with a career that spanned out ahead of him, a young firefighter. Just heartbreaking when, you think to the last time that you saw Lieutenant Ciparini and now this.
Yeah, and that was, you saw him 6 days ago right here in our studio. Lieutenant Ciparini, that's a lieutenant, is a police rank with Webster Police Department. You see him right there. His chief is saying that he is a lifelong firefighter. Came up through the Explorers program. Obviously, about 20 years, I think, is what the chief said he had in with the police department, really indicating a man devoted to public service, to helping others. We found information on the West Webster's Fire Department website saying that Mike Ciparini among those who went down to Suffolk County on November 1st, volunteering his time, efforts, and skills to help those affected by Hurricane Sandy. I'm sure we're going to hear more stories about the others involved in this morning's tragedy up on Lake Road as they pour out, probably stories not too dissimilar from Lieutenant Ciparini's.
And our thoughts, of course, with Lieutenant Ciparini's family, also with Mr. Kazuka's family, but also with the other two firefighters injured in this. They are not out of the woods by any stretch.
No, not at all. They have very distinct injuries, both men. And we heard from the physician attending them at Strong Memorial Hospital, Mr. Scardino, with a left chest and lung injury, as well as his knee. He has significant injuries there, as well as Mr. Hofstetter with a pelvis injury, a very long road to recovery for both men. That is for certain, but neither are on ventilators. They are both awake, alert, and according to the physician, in guarded condition in the ICU this midday.
And one positive note, if you can take it from this, is that they said the bullet that went through Joseph Hofstetter's chest went through his lung, but missed some arteries, some blood vessels that could have caused some serious damage. Fortunately, he is still with us, and the doctors are working incredibly hard right now to make sure that he recovers from this and lives to see another day here.
It is perhaps the only bright spot, both of those men, in a day so filled with sadness when I don't think any family of the men who volunteer for this force will ever forget. On a day when families are getting together, you think about it, they could have been out of town, they could have been visiting family far away, they were home, they were with their families this morning. They went to that fire scene this morning like they go to every fire scene. They were ready to report for duty, and they did. They went and they ran to the emergency like they always do, and two did not make it home. And the physician, when asked what the gentlemen who survived were feeling, she said, how would you expect them to feel? They went to work this morning and they ended up in the ICU in intensive care. Right. And I'm paraphrasing her because she said it so well.
And what's disturbing about this, Norma, is we're seeing these pictures here, we're putting up these names, we're giving out these details just days after Sandy Hook. And a lot of people are still reeling from that going into this holiday week, wondering, of course, how this could happen, what is going on in our country. And now here in the Rochester area, in Webster, we're dealing with a situation that has some similarities. And we're going to find out more about the situation, get more details in the coming hours.
One of the similarities, if there are just any, is really that we're seeing a lot of response from around not just this community, which you would expect in our community, of course, but around the state, around the country. People are tuned in, people are watching this, people are paying attention. We just recently received a statement from the Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman, saying in part, quote, following this senseless tragedy, our thoughts and prayers are with the families of those who have lost their lives in the line of duty, heroically protecting the communities they serve. We're, of course, going to be hearing from so many more. What issues went into this, we don't know. What issues and background and circumstances were to blame or led up to this is stuff we're hoping to still learn. We're told a 2 o'clock press briefing is, I believe, how Webster Police Chief Gerald Pickering left it with us last, that we may get more information in about an hour. And you saw they're still fighting a fire scene up there.
Tributes are beginning to pour in for the men involved, including one of the Mr. Tomas Kashuka, who died. There is a Facebook page that has been created for him by, I presume, friends, people who know him. There are photos there of him with his West Webster Fire Department jacket on, proudly wearing that. This is a story that has so many elements. There is the criminal, there is the law enforcement angle, but so closely tied to that, so married to all of this is emotion that is so very difficult to separate, so difficult to separate. And Jennifer Johnson joins us live from Webster, and I know, Jennifer, you were witness to that emotion this morning when you were down at Seabreeze with those firefighters who were just comforting each other at the beginning information, the very little that was coming in.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, you have 1 or 2 people in charge, and when it's a chaotic situation, the tamp down on information, there's a big one, because again, information's coming out. Is it true? Is it not? They want to make sure that information, when you're dealing with life and death, is correct. You can understand that. At the same time, people begin to talk because these are each other's friends. They might be in different departments, but they've worked, accidents and fires in the past. Just recently, just last weekend, 8 days ago, in Seabreeze Fire Department, I believe, had a winter parade where a whole bunch of different departments brought their trucks, and little kids just loved it. They worked together on things like that. So when I showed up there, and again, Norma, you know this, we work with firefighters in good times and in bad. You get to know them a little bit. And I remember a firefighter said to me this morning, I said, do you know this person? He said, yes, I do. He said, and you know him too. And, you can't help but, give each other a hug at that point. When there is the work of bringing out the injured and work of transporting out bodies, when you are tied to those folks, as these firefighters and emergency personnel who are on the scene are, it's emotional. They have a job to do. All that anyone really wants to do is be home on Christmas Eve, so much less be called out, and much less be called out for something, of this magnitude. Seeing the, emotion here, too, with Chief Pickering. This was a tough news conference for him to get through. We know, covering the Xerox shooting, for example, that's an occurrence, and folks that he holds very close in his heart as well. But this was someone he worked alongside with. This was hard for him to get through, announcing the names. I've never seen him like that. Still, though, he held it together a lot better than I could have, that's for sure. It was tough for him in here. It was tough for him once he exited. And people are doing their job. but also leaning on one another as well. It's approaching 1 o'clock now. We do expect another update roughly around 2 o'clock. So everyone's still, hanging here, waiting to see if there's anything new. For now, guys, back to you.
Jennifer, thank you so very much. And again, putting so succinctly the emotion felt by all of these men and women out there and the families involved. Let's recap for you. 2 firefighters from the West Webster Fire Department were killed in the line of duty today. 2 were injured. Their names of the deceased fireman Tomas Kashuka, Lieutenant Mike Ciparini were killed in the line of duty. Injured Theodore Scardino, Joseph Hostetter, both sustaining serious injuries, very distinct injuries, both men with a very long road ahead of them. The shooter in all of this, according to police, is dead. They have not released any names at this point, and the fire is now being brought under control at that home. The fire that precipitated this entire thing this morning.
Yeah, we're taking a last look of the fire on Lake Road. The big question now, anybody else inside those homes? That's what we're waiting for.
At least 8 homes involved. The chief saying 4 completely destroyed and 4 more heavily damaged, perhaps even worse now as we're looking at that scene. And of course, we're going to be bringing you these updates throughout the afternoon.
All right, so stay tuned, of course, to 13WHAM as well as 13WHAM.com and social media for all the very latest information. And we thank you for joining us.
Take care.
Next, the latest on the ambush of firefighters responding to a call in Webster. 2 are dead, 3 wounded. Who is the gunman? A familiar name to local police. And 7 homes destroyed at that fire scene along Lake Road in Webster.
From your breaking news and weather authority, this is 13 Wham News at 5 in high definition.
Breaking news now, West Webster volunteer firefighters ambushed as they arrive at this fire on Lake Road this morning. 4 of them were shot, 2 died.
Fireman Tomas Kashuka was deceased at the scene. Fireman Mike Ciparini, who's also lieutenant with the Webster Police Department, was deceased at the scene.
That is the Webster Police Chief, Gerald Pickering, trying to keep it together today and do his job. It is safe to say, I think, that his job has never been harder. Good afternoon. I'm Doug Embledge.
And I'm Jenny Ryan. Very emotional. A fire scene on Lake Road in Webster is also the scene of a horrific crime. First responders came under fire just as they arrived to help. The call for a fire at 191 Lake Road came in around 5:30 this morning. Minutes later, it was apparent this was not a routine call.
951, you want me to start the ambulance because firefighters are down? Yes, of course.
Firefighter and Webster Police Lieutenant Mike Ciparini, seen here in the Channel 13 studios, was shot and died on the scene. So was Tomas Kashuka, a 911 dispatcher who's been a West Webster volunteer for 1 year. The shooter, identified by police as 61-year-old William Spengler, was found dead near his burning home hours later from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police say he lived in the family home on Lake Road with his sister, and she is now unaccounted for.
2 volunteer firefighters were also shot and are being treated at Strong tonight, and a Greece police officer passing the scene this morning suffered minor injuries when he was struck by broken glass as he was fired upon. Now, we have extended coverage for you tonight about the men who died, those who survived, and what they encountered as they first arrived at that scene.
13 Wham's Alexis Arnold is live now at the command center on Bay Road in Webster. Alexis?
Yeah, we also should mention that that fire is under control. Investigators still trying to piece together information, but as of late, we are just getting a better idea of what exactly took place early this morning as everything unfolded. At least 7 homes we know are destroyed. 33 residents or so had to be evacuated from that scene as that fire continued to spread about shortly before 6 this morning. And as we've been talking about all day, 2 firefighters who risked their lives are dead. Mike Ciparini, a lieutenant also with the Webster Police Department, also a firefighter, had just won the Firefighter of the Year award. And Tomas Kachuka, also a 911 dispatcher, in addition to being a firefighter, barely 20 years old. And as we were talking about, 2 other firefighters who were injured, as well as that off-duty Greece police officer. This all unfolded this morning when initial report came in of a car and house fire. And upon arrival, those first responders were shot at by the gunman, and police believe that gunman was at a higher ground. And they're also, just as the information is unfolding, they believe that this gunman, wherever he was, this incident was a trap, that this may have been a setup from the beginning. And police describe this as a very, very difficult situation, a very chaotic scene.
It does appear that it was a trap that was set for responding, first responders, but causative reasons we don't have at this time. We're hampered by the fact that we had all these homes fully engulfed in fire. We can't even get our criminal investigators into the scene until the fires are controlled.
Again, that gunman is dead. He died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. It's not known at this time if there are any other victims. Again, police, law enforcement officials going door to door trying to find out if there are more victims. Hopefully there are not. Also, Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy made an appearance today, and we're going to hear from him later on tonight at 5:30. We're live in Webster. Alexis Arnold, 13 WAM News.
The firefighters killed in the ambush today are being remembered for their dedication to community service. Mike Ciparini was a volunteer firefighter and a lieutenant in the Webster Police Department. Tomas Kachuka, also a volunteer firefighter. He's 19 years old, a dispatcher at the county's 911 center. 13 WAM's Angela Hong is here now with more on those 2 victims. Angela?
Well, Doug, if you're a reporter here in Rochester, Lieutenant Mike Ciparini was a familiar face. He was the public information officer, a point of contact for the media, and often the face of the police department. We had the honor of working with Lieutenant Ciparini on several stories. He was just in our own studios last week for an interview. During his off hours, he was also a veteran volunteer firefighter for the West Webster Fire Department. In fact, he was named Firefighter of the Year just 2 weeks ago. Those who knew and worked with Lieutenant Ciparini say he will be sorely missed.
Mike, again, was a great, dedicated public servant, volunteer at the fire department for 20 plus years. He started as an explorer, became a member of the Webster Police Department, another person that is always there to help his community, whether it was with the fire department or with the police department.
Lieutenant Ciparini was also a father. He was 43 years old. 13 WAM's Kelsey Smith joins us now with more information on 19-year-old Tomas Kachuka.
Angela Kachuka, I'm told, just graduated high school last year, and being a firefighter was who he was to the core. Kachuka was also a fire dispatcher at the Monroe County Communications Center. He started working at the center just a year and a half ago. Shift supervisor Christopher Martin says he was passionate about the job, a hard worker who stood out even during the hiring process.
He just has a spirit of community. He wanted to be a firefighter. He started as an explorer with the West Webster Fire Department. He came here shortly after that. He was doing a dual role, as he did right up until today, where he was a fire dispatcher for us and a volunteer firefighter in his community. And he had a job before he came here. I mean, this is a dynamic young man who's into growing up in his community and providing that community service.
Kachuka also was a student at Monroe County Community College. I'm told that his long-term goal was to be a paid firefighter. Live in Webster, Kelsey Smith, 13 WAM News.
All right, thank you, Kelsey. Now to the survivors of this ambush. Joseph Hofstetter, a West Webster volunteer firefighter and a Rochester firefighter, is in stable condition, recovering from gunshot wounds. Theodore Scardino, also a West Webster volunteer firefighter, is in guarded condition. And John Ritter, an off-duty Greece police officer who stopped at the scene on the way to work, was hit by glass and was treated at the hospital. 13 WAM's Evan White is live now with the latest on the survivors for us. Evan?
Yeah, Jenny, it's a bit of a wait-and-see approach for the doctors and nurses in the intensive care unit here at Strong Hospital. Hofstetter and Scardino are being closely watched to see how their bodies respond to the treatment they've received thus far. Now, firefighters have been filing in and out of the emergency department at Strong all day. A group of West Webster firemen were seen walking over just before 3 o'clock this afternoon. Now, Hofstetter suffered a bullet wound to his pelvis, and Scardino 2 wounds, one to his chest, another to his knee. The trauma surgeon treating each man discussed their injuries, beginning with Hofstetter.
The missile is actually embedded in one of his spine bones, so that certainly is not removed and likely will never be removed. He broke his shoulder blade, this scapula on the left-hand side, in multiple places, and that can affect motion of that arm.
As we said, it's a bit of a wait and see. Doctors are watching and waiting to see how these bodies respond to the possibility they could suffer some serious bleeding. That's one thing that the ICU team is looking out for. As for John Ritter, the officer that we'd mentioned to you before, we're told that he had been treated and is home resting, did not suffer injuries nearly as serious as these other 2. For now, reporting live at Strong Hospital, Evan White, 13 WHAM News.
All right, thank you, Evan. We'll continue to update their conditions throughout the evening. The gunman is dead, and we're learning more about 62-year-old William Spengler.
As we first told you this morning, he did time in state prison after killing his grandmother more than 30 years ago. Spengler, seen here in a photo released by authorities this afternoon, completed his parole in 2006. He was found dead near the scene around 11 o'clock this morning. Keep in mind that was hours after the shooting started. 13 WHAM's Sean Carroll joins us now with more on what he's learned about William Spengler today.
Yeah, Doug and Ginny, Spengler was convicted of manslaughter in 1981. He was released from prison in 1998, a little more than 17 years later, and Webster's police chief said they had no recent contact with him. But in July of 1980, Channel 13 reported on the death of Rose Spengler, who lived on Lake Road where this morning's events unfolded. Take a look.
92-year-old Rose Spengler lived alone at this house for over 40 years. She was found dead on the floor of the dwelling on Friday afternoon by her grandson, William Spengler, who lives next door. Spengler discovered the body at about 12:45 p.m.
Now, state prison records confirm Spengler beat his grandmother to death with a hammer. A parole board denied his parole numerous times before releasing him when he had completed his full sentence. Police say Spengler was found dead with multiple weapons around him this morning, but he may have been alive for many hours after that initial shooting. This afternoon, I asked the chief if other members of Spengler's family could be missing. Chief, are there members of Spengler's family that are unaccounted for right now? Members of Spengler's family unaccounted for right now?
At this time, we are chasing down those leads, and it is possible that that a sister of Mr. Spengler is unaccounted for.
Was she living at that residence up there?
The last known address that we had for her was at that residence.
Officials also confirmed Spengler's mother passed away recently. They don't know what, if any, impact that may have had on any actions today. Spengler fired on firefighters from a berm where he was positioned, and yet a uniformed Webster police officer, the first arriving on scene, Doug and Ginny, he was able to return fire, according to the chief.
Sean, we're still learning so much about this, but you mentioned several weapons that Mr. Spengler had. He is a convicted felon. There's a conflict there.
Indeed. In fact, the chief was asked that in today's press briefing this afternoon. Obviously, a gun control debate very much on the forefront of a lot of people's minds, and he very simply said, legal or illegal, those guns, that is. He's a convicted felon. They were illegal if they were in his hands.
All right, Sean, I know you've got more coming up at 5:30, including the question about possibly his sister and the exchange of fire with police, so we'll check back with you in just a little bit. One other tidbit that came out, and Rachel Barnhart's going to cover it for us a little bit later on. Spengler's mother died just a couple months ago, and in her obituary it listed the West Webster Volunteer Fire Association as the place where she wanted donations sent. Certainly a bit of irony in all of this tonight.
More coming up. Right now, though, meteorologist Mark McLean is tracking a winter storm ahead this week. Mark?
That's right. It's actually going to be in 2 parts. We've got one little storm system moving through tonight. Should be nice to give us a white Christmas here at Western New York. And then that second storm system, a winter storm watch in effect for Wednesday afternoon through Thursday afternoon. We'll have more details coming up on that. First, ultimate Doppler radar, the live scan showing that Rochester is snow-free at this point. But southwest starting to see some of those snow showers build in through Erie right now through Jamestown. And I think it's going to be about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. If you're out for services this evening, you want to watch that time for some some of this light snow to come in. So still gray skies at 7 o'clock, low 30s. By 11 o'clock tonight, we'll have some of that light snow in the air, 30 degrees at that point. And by tomorrow morning, when you wake up, most areas are going to see about 2 inches of snow, upper 20s at that point. We'll check out that next storm system coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Mark, thank you. We will check back up next the 911 recordings from today's tragedy out in Webster.
And community reaction to that ambush of 2 firefighters in Webster.
New at 5:30 tonight, the Webster School Deputy Superintendent talks about the firefighters who died. More now on our breaking news from Webster. It began about 5:30 this morning with a 911 call for a car and house fire on Lake Road.
At first, it sounded like many other fire calls, but it quickly changed when the first West Webster firefighters arrived on the scene. 13 WHAM's Adam Chodek has been listening to the 911 recordings for us. Adam?
Jenny, you're about to hear what is likely the voice of Joe Hofstetter, the firefighter shot in the pelvis. He appears to have taken cover behind the fire truck and calls in while shots are still ringing out. This recording comes from PhillyFireNews.com.
I'm pretty sure we have 2 DOAs in the street. I made it 2 doors down. I did immediate EMS. Any way to find out for the police status of the shooter? If they are in the area, I don't know where they are. I'm under cover of the fire truck, which I've tried to move down the street and has crashed. I'm concerned about leaving the safe area I'm in. Try to move down the street, but I need immediate EMS. I believe the 2 victims that were with me have not moved since they've been struck.
What struck me about the audio is just how calm the volunteer firefighter remained under fire. He had been shot and was likely in a terrible amount of pain, yet still he put others before himself. Hofstetter and fellow firefighter Theodore Scardino are now being treated at Strong Hospital. Doctors there say Hofstetter is looking down a long road to recovery. In the newsroom, Adam Chodak.
At first, I had heard that a fire truck had actually crashed too, but he said he was trying to move it while he was injured, while he was under fire, and while he is likely watching his 2 colleagues lie motionless there on the ground. I can't imagine the shock he was in as he tried to keep doing his job.
We should point out he is a trained city firefighter as well. That's his full-time job, so he has a lot of experience in situations. Nothing like this, though. Nothing trains you for a situation like this, for sure.
Still ahead, we're going to continue coverage of the ambush of those firefighters in Webster and more on the shooter who was found dead, his lengthy criminal background.
But first, a look at the HD Wham Cam. Chief Meteorologist Glenn Johnson is off. Meteorologist Mark McLean is tracking a winter storm headed this way after Christmas. We are continuing to track the very latest on the ambush of firefighters in West Webster this morning. 2 firefighters died at the scene. Mike Ciparini, a volunteer with the West Webster Department, and a lieutenant in the Webster Police Department, along with Tomas Kachuka, a West Webster volunteer and a 911 dispatcher. Firefighters Ted Scardino and Joseph Hofstetter were wounded. Because of the gunfire at the scene, responding firefighters were held back, and the fire spread to and destroyed 7 homes on Lake Road.
Some other news now. Stormy weather is making this night before Christmas a nightmare for a lot of travelers. Winter storms scuttling holiday travel plans in Northern California, where a snowstorm grounded hundreds of flights to and from San Francisco. The Midwest will be socked by the middle of the week as well, making driving difficult and perhaps snarling air traffic on the day after Christmas, which is one of the heaviest travel days of the year. No matter what Congress does to address the year-end fiscal cliff, workers probably won't feel the full brunt of next year's tax increases if they happen in their January paychecks. It's already too late for employers to accurately withhold income taxes from next month's paychecks, but Social Security payroll taxes are set to increase on January 1st. So employees should immediately feel the squeeze of that 2% cut in their take-home pay.
Coming up next, continuing coverage of today's tragedy in Webster, the latest on the victims killed, the survivors, and new details learned about the gunman from the scene on Lake Road in Webster. Next, 2 Webster firefighters dead, 3 wounded, responding to a call on Lake Road this morning. 7 homes destroyed at that same scene. And the gunman, also dead, is a convicted felon.
From your breaking news and weather authority, this is 13 WHAM News at 5:30 in high definition.
4 West Webster volunteer firefighters shot, 2 were killed as they were ambushed responding to this fire on Lake Road this morning.
There's a heightened awareness to this kind of violence in light of what happened in Connecticut. And I just want everyone to remember it's Christmas Eve. We have first responders and we have families who are in pain and crisis today. And we need to, as a community, keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Very, very difficult day.
This very difficult day began at 5:30 with a call to 911 for a house and car fire that sounded like many others, and then something that sounded very different.
We are being shot at. Multiple firemen down. Multiple firemen shot. I am shot. Well, I think we have an assault rifle. We have multiple firemen down. Working fire.
Firefighters responding to that call for help were ambushed by a gunman at 191 Lake Road. 2 firefighters died at the scene. Mike Ciporini, a volunteer with West Webster and a lieutenant in the Webster Police Department, along with Tomas Kachuka, a West Webster volunteer and 911 dispatcher. Firefighters Ted Scardino and Joseph Hofstetter were wounded. Because of the gunfire, responding firefighters were held back, and the fire spread to and destroyed 7 homes.
Hours later, police say they found the gunman's body with self-inflicted gunshot wounds. The gunman is identified as 62-year-old William Spengler, who lived at the address 191 Lake Road. He is also a familiar name to local law enforcement. 13 Wham's Sean Carroll in the newsroom now with more on that. Sean?
Yeah, Ginny Spengler is known to law enforcement more for his criminal past dating back to 1980. Police today say they have, however, not had any recent encounters with him. But here's how they do know him. When on Lake Road, Spengler's 92-year-old grandmother was found beaten to death in her home with a hammer back in July of 1980. William Spengler was convicted of manslaughter a year later and sent to prison for nearly 18 years. He was released in 1998. He completed parole in 06. And then this morning, Spengler opened fire on the first responding firefighters to arrive at this burning home. It was, by all accounts, a trap that Spengler had laid.
We're assuming that he was shooting from a high ground advantage and a berm near the home where he had, barricaded or set himself up with his weapons to shoot the innocent responders. And I will say that one of the first Webster police officers to respond did engage the shooter and probably in all likelihood saved many lives.
That Webster police officer, the chief referencing, not being identified tonight, said it's possible he returned fire with a rifle that his patrol officers carry with them in their vehicle, but he's not 100% sure about that. What followed for nearly 5 hours was a hunt for Spengler in that area, while police say he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. They also know they had numerous sightings of him in that area as they secured a perimeter. They tried to bring him into custody. They saw him numerous times. Don't know exactly when he died. They didn't know until at least 11 o'clock this morning. Doug and Ginny?
Sean, we've talked about it a little bit, and it seems to still be hanging out there. The possibility that his sister, well, she's unaccounted for and missing, and perhaps in that house that burned today?
Indeed, we are aware that he has a sister who is still unaccounted for at this time. Police chief saying the last known address they had for her was that Lake Road address, 191. It was the Spengler family home for many decades. She still unaccounted for at this time. We also know his mother, William Spengler's mother, recently passed away a couple of months ago. Police unsure what, if any, effect that may have had on today's events.
All right, thank you, Sean Carroll in the newsroom.
Thanks, Sean. We'll be checking back with you at 6 o'clock tonight. Also today, we want to go out to the place where a lot of the information was disseminated throughout the day today. They set up a command center on Bay Road. Alexis Arnold is there to bring us up to date on the latest information. That really has been kind of the focal point for us gathering a lot of the news today, Alexis.
Yeah, it really was. And at last check, we were told that that fire was under control. And at one point, yes, this was the area, the staging area where we saw a lot of our law enforcement officials. We also saw a lot of cars, a bus, a city bus, for that matter, where a lot of evacuees were coming. We know that there were at least 33 dozens who were evacuated from that area early this morning from that fire. A lot of people without homes tonight. 7 homes were destroyed. And so a lot of those evacuees were coming here. And we also know that the Red Cross was reaching out, trying to get the needs of those who were evacuated, those who are displaced. And I got to tell you, we've been covering a lot of press conferences before in the past, and never have we seen maybe the emotion, the extent of emotion that we saw from our law enforcement officials. You got to think that these were their colleagues, people that they worked with for years. And so very heavy hearts tonight. And Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy was also on hand, and he shared some comments, and here's more of what he had to say.
I just want to extend our sympathy on behalf of the governor to the families of these 4 victims, the 2 that lost their lives and the 2 that are fighting for their lives. Never in my career, I spent almost 29 years in my police career, have I seen anything like this. It is unspeakable and unthinkable to think this happened.
And again, Lieutenant Governor Duffy, speaking of his experience, his former experience as former police chief for the Rochester Police Department. Again, we also want to tell you that, as we know at this moment, there aren't any other victims that are known yet. But of course, the investigators still trying to piece information together. Still a very active criminal scene, a criminal investigation at that scene on Lake Road tonight. We're live in Webster. Alexis Arnold, 13 WAM News.
All right, thank you. The firefighters killed in the ambush are being remembered for their dedication to community service. Mike Chipperini was a volunteer firefighter and lieutenant in the Webster Police Department. Tomas Kachuka was also a volunteer firefighter and a dispatcher in the county's 911 center. He was 19 years old.
And now to the survivors, those who are at Strong Memorial Hospital tonight. Joseph Hofstetter is a West Webster volunteer firefighter and a Rochester City firefighter. He is in guarded condition tonight, recovering from gunshot wounds. And Theodore Scardino, a West Webster volunteer firefighter, in guarded condition as well. John Ritter, an off-duty Greece police officer, stopped at the scene on his way to work. He was hit by broken glass after his car apparently was fired upon. He was treated and is said to be home tonight, resting comfortably. 13 WAM's Evan White is with the latest now, has the latest for us on the survivors. He's at Strong Memorial Hospital tonight.
Doug, we spoke with the trauma surgeon treating both Scardino and Hofstetter. She sounded optimistic earlier today, feeling that this is an early time in the recovery, but believes both men being treated at Strong have a good chance of recovering. Now, firefighters from around the Rochester area have been going in and out of the emergency room at Strong all day. Scardino suffered 2 wounds, one to his chest, another to his knee. Hofstetter had a gunshot wound to his pelvis. The bullet that hit Scardino is expected to surface on its own. The other one that hit Hofstetter is expected to remain there, as it could do more damage if it is removed. Now, Hofstetter works full-time with the Rochester Fire Department, and I spoke with one of his coworkers who came to visit earlier today.
The thing is, there's 2 of us standing here now, but there's been probably 60 to 80 firefighters, chiefs, family members in there. So, you know, certainly having more than one person deal with this at a time definitely helps make it in some way easier.
And of course, there are a lot of firefighters that came today. More are expected to come tomorrow and the next day as they continue to trickle in and out of the emergency department here at Strong. Obviously seeing family there as well. Both Hofstetter and Scardino remain in the intensive care unit here at Strong Hospital. Reporting live, Evan White, 13 WAM News.
Yeah, firefighters are truly a family unit in times like these. Thank you, Evan. Now to Wall Street, where the Dow ended this day off 52 points, the NASDAQ down 8.5, and the S&P off 3.5.
Of course, we're going to cover this further at 6 o'clock tonight, but Don is here now, really kind of just talk about what you're seeing after. I remember last week or 2 weeks ago after Newtown, you talked about it being one of the toughest 6 o'clock newscasts, and I think this one at least is going to rank up there too.
And this one tough for that whole community. And when we watch how the community responds, how Wegmans responds by sending out food, how all of the churches are responding tonight, and when we look at the faces of all the people at that news conference, Maggie Brooks, our county executive, Bob Duffy, representing not only the governor but all of his years in law enforcement. Sure. These are people that he knows, and it's a very tight-knit community. I was listening, and it's painful to listen to in some respects with that 911 chatter with Joseph Hofstetter, how calm he remained throughout that, describing his own wounds, that he's wounded in the leg, but again, looking out for the others who are there and being so cautious. So a lot of stories that we won't have time to tell behind the scenes as we give everyone the details of what happened, but a sense of community that we certainly appreciate.
You just said it. It strikes me that what Joseph Hofstetter did at that scene may have saved lives by keeping the others away.
At bay, yes, and there's also a Greece off-duty officer who responded trying to keep others away as well and was hit by shrapnel. A lot of people doing heroic things today.
And he really
They do
blocked
them
that
every
road,
day.
kept that roadblock so that people weren't driving into that scene as well.
And all of this on Christmas Eve, no less.
Yeah.
We'll see you in a few.
All right, be back at 6.
All right,
Thanks, Don.
still ahead. The Webster community reacting to today's ambush of firefighters at that scene. The firefighters killed in the ambush are being remembered for their heroism and dedication to the community. Moments ago, the county executive, Maggie Brooks, sent out a statement sending her deepest condolences to their families. Mike Ciparini was killed. He's a lieutenant in the Webster Police Department and a volunteer in West Webster, along with Tomas Kachuka, also a volunteer firefighter in West Webster, just 19 years old.
Yeah, all right. Kelsey Smith is with us now, and she is talking about the deaths of these two men and the community's reaction to it tonight. Kelsey?
Don and Ginny, well, it's been a heartbreaking day here in Webster, talking to people early this morning, glued to their TVs, wanting to know what happened. More importantly, wanting to know why. In the meantime, families and friends are remembering those that were killed. Tomas Kachuka was a fire dispatcher at the Monroe County Office of Emergency Communications. He got a job a year and a half ago when he was just 18. Kachuka wanted to be a paid firefighter someday. He wanted to serve others, much like Lieutenant Mike Ciparini had spent his career doing. He's a 20-year veteran of the Webster Police Force, former fire chief of the Webster Fire Department, and a public relations officer for the Webster Police Department. He also assisted with the Explorer program at the fire department, a program Tomas was a part of.
Oh, definitely in his blood. He wanted to be a fireman in the worst way, wanted to work here at 911 and help other people and help the community. Another person that is always there to help his community, whether it was with the fire department or with the police department, always engaged in and worked on those extra projects helping the police department.
One word Mecklinger used to describe both men: dedicated. He says they do have grief counselors at the Monroe County Office for Emergency Communication. Not only did they lose someone they worked with directly, they also lost someone they worked with closely. Live in Webster, Kelsey Smith, 13 WHAM News.
All right, Kelsey, thanks so much. We think of green and red as the colors that we'll see outside at this time of year, but take a look at this picture. Black flags have been put up around the county today to honor the two firefighters, Mike Ciparini and Tomas Kachuka, who were killed in the line of duty this morning.
WHAM News in high definition. Makeup provided by MAC.
Webster is one of our biggest towns in Monroe County, but in the aftermath of the tragedy, it feels very much like a small town where everybody knows everybody else.
Yeah, that is for sure. Everyone touched by the events today on Lake Road. 13 WHAM's Rachel Barnhart says a Webster school official has ties to 3 of the victims. Rachel?
Yes, Carmen Gamina is deputy school superintendent in Webster and a county lawmaker. He knew Mike Ciparini through the Webster Explorers program. Ciparini was a volunteer. Gamina also knew Tomas Kachuka. He graduated from Webster in 2011. The 2 volunteer firefighters were killed today. Gamina also knew Joe Hofstetter. He used to be his teacher at Webster High.
Officer Mike, 20-year veteran for our community, and it is an incredible loss. It's tough to find words, to tell you the truth. Tomas was not even 20 years old. I think of Joe Hofstetter, and I always picture Joe as a 16-year-old that I had in class, and my heart goes out to him and his mom, who's my daughter's teacher right now.
And 1 year ago this month, the Webster community was in mourning. A father and 2 sons died in a house fire. A 3rd son, Michael Pilato, was charged with murder, accused of setting that fire. More than a few residents and law enforcement officials brought up that fire and expressed disbelief that something so terrible has happened in their community again. Rachel Barnhart, 13 WHAM News.
All right, Rachel. Yeah, thank you. Flowers outside of the West Webster Fire Department in honor of the 2 firefighters killed in the line of duty. We know there are vigils planned for this evening, and of course, we will be covering those as well. That is 13 WHAM News at 5:30.
13 WHAM at 6 begins right now. Here's Don.
And just ahead, a continuing coverage of today's breaking news out of West Webster. 2 volunteer firefighters shot and killed, 2 others wounded as they responded to a fire on Lake Road early this morning. Police identified the suspect as William Spengler, who they say is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Complete coverage continues on 13 Wham News at 6.
That is 13 Wham News at 5:30.
13 Wham at 6 begins right now. Here's Don.
And just ahead, a continuing coverage of today's breaking news out of West Webster. 2 volunteer firefighters shot and killed, 2 others wounded as they responded to a fire on Lake Road early this morning. Police identified the suspect as William Spengler, who they say is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Complete coverage continues on 13 Wham News at 6.
From your breaking news and weather authority, this is 13 Wham News at 6 in high definition.
Fireman Tomas Kachufka was deceased at the scene. Fireman Mike Ciparini, who's also lieutenant with the Webster Police Department, was deceased at the scene.
The morning of Christmas Eve Day at the breaking dawn over Webster brings death and destruction. That fire first reported about 5:30 this morning. Flames shooting into the dark morning sky, leaping from one home to the next over on Lake Road in Webster. First responders, volunteers from the West Webster Fire Department arrive and are immediately fired upon by a sniper who lay in wait. 2 firefighters are killed, 2 others are wounded. By mid-afternoon, the shooter is identified as 62-year-old William Spengler, who lived in one of those homes. After an exchange of gunfire with a Webster police officer, Spengler was found dead of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Good evening. One of those who was killed this morning was Mike Ciparini. He is also a lieutenant with the Webster Police Department. In fact, you may have seen him recently on Channel 13 with a Crime Stoppers report. Tomas Kachufka joined the fire department through its Explorer program, a young man, a 911 dispatcher from Monroe County. 2 others shot and wounded. Joseph Hofstetter, a city firefighter as well as a volunteer. Both he and firefighter Theodore Scardino are in guarded condition at Strong Hospital tonight. We have live team coverage tonight. We're going to begin with Alexis Arnold, who has been out in Webster all of this day, attending all of the briefings. And bring us up to date, please, Alexis.
Well, at this point, at last check, we know that the fire was under control. And we know that several homes, at least 7, were destroyed and dozens of people were evacuated, at least 33. And this was the place that many of those evacuees we saw at one point were on the other side of the building coming for refuge. We want to recap for you some of those moments from earlier today. The initial 911 call for all of this came in before 6 o'clock this morning, and it came in as a car and house fire. And when first responders arrived to do their job, that's when they were shot at. And we're learning tonight, we've learned from some of those press conferences that the gunman may have been at higher ground shooting down to those and at those emergency crews. As we've been telling you, 2 firefighters lost their lives. 2 were hurt, including also hurt an off-duty Greece police officer who happened to be in the area. Police say it was a very difficult scene because they couldn't do their initial job, which was to battle that blaze. And because of that, the fire spread.
Upon arrival, the firefighters all drew fire. All 4 firefighters were shot at the scene. 1 firefighter was able to flee the scene on his own. The other 3 were pinned down at the location. Eventually, SWAT with an armored personnel carrier was able to respond to that location and remove 2 additional firefighters from that scene.
And at this time, we do not know if there are any other known victims. Of course, investigators still trying to piece all this information together and still investigating. It's a very active scene on Lake Road, and we're going to continue to bring you updates. Again, evacuees at one point were on the other side of this building coming for refuge. Several homeless tonight, and the Red Cross is reaching out, trying to see what the need is and assist in any way they can. Reporting live from Webster, Alexis Arnold, 13 WAM News.
All right, hey, thank you, Alexis. We cannot say enough about the firefighters who died in that ambush. They are being remembered for their dedication, their community service. We talked about Mike Ciparini, a volunteer firefighter, but he's also a lieutenant in the Webster Police Department. Tomas Kachuka, also a volunteer firefighter and a dispatcher in the county's 911 center. Mike was a familiar face as the public information officer, a point of contact for the media, often the face of the police department. We told you about his appearance just here last week. And during his off hours, he was also a veteran volunteer firefighter for that West Webster Fire Department. In fact, he was named Firefighter of the Year just 2 weeks ago. Those who knew him and worked with him say he will be sorely missed.
Mike, again, was a great, dedicated public servant, volunteer at the fire department for 20-plus years. He started as an explorer, became a member of the Webster Police Department, another person that is always there to help his community, whether it was with the fire department or with the police department.
And the other firefighter who died this morning, rushing in to help fight the fire. He was sleeping in one of the neighboring firehouses overnight, one of the first to respond, Tomas Kachuka. Volunteer for the firefighters department, also, as we said, a dispatcher at 911. Kelsey Smith spoke to those who knew him. She joins us live with more on that. Kelsey.
Don, Tomas Kachuka just graduated high school last year. I'm told by those that knew him, he was a firefighter to the core. Kachuka worked as a fire dispatcher at the Monroe County Communications Center. He started working at the center a year and a half ago. Those who worked with Kachuka say he was passionate about the job, a hard worker who stood out even during the hiring process.
He was sharp, he's young, he's very, very much into this job and being a volunteer firefighter. He just has a spirit of community. He wanted to be a firefighter. He started as an explorer with the West Webster Fire Department.
Kachuka was also a student at Monroe Community College. I'm also told his long-term goal was to be a paid firefighter. Live in Webster, Kelsey Smith, 13 WAM News.
All right, and now to the survivors of this morning's ambush. Joseph Hostetter, a West Webster volunteer, also a Rochester firefighter, his full-time job. He is in guarded condition, recovering from gunshot wounds. Theodore Scardino, also a West Webster volunteer, in guarded condition as well. John Ritter, we point out as well, he is an off-duty Greece police officer. He was on his way to work. He stopped on the scene, was hit when his car was fired upon by shrapnel. He is being treated at the hospital, but every bit being regarded as a hero, helping to shut down the traffic and keep others away from a very, very dangerous scene. Evan White joining us now live outside Strong Hospital with more on those who have gathered there. I assume a lot of families and praying for the two survivors that are being treated there.
Absolutely, Don. And both Scardino and Hofstetter remain in the intensive care unit here at Strong Hospital. The doctor, the trauma surgeon who's treating both of them, says this is a delicate time in their recovery. Both are at risk for bleeding and are being constantly watched. Firefighter Joe Hofstetter was among the first at the scene of the Lake Road fire and shooting in Webster.
I'm struck in the lower back and lower leg, both of which I know can be deadly, so I need EMS.
2 people died. He was able to escape with a bullet wound to the pelvis. Another firefighter, Ted Scardino, was hit twice, one wound piercing his chest. The pair remain at the intensive care unit at Strong Hospital.
Both of the firefighters have been incredible, but absolutely affected by what's happened to them today.
West Webster firefighters have been walking in and out of the emergency room at Strong all day.
You know, I think we started getting text messages at home around 7 o'clock.
Jim Bow has worked with Hofstetter at Rochester's fire department for several years. He also came to visit him today.
He's in great spirits for considering what happened.
He and Luong Tran were among the more than 100 firefighters who've been visiting the ICU, seeing both Hofstetter and Ted Scardino.
And we're just hoping for a fast recovery.
Trauma surgeon Nicole Stassen said the wounds are serious.
For Mr. Hostetter, the missile is actually embedded in one of his spine bones, so that certainly is not removed and likely will never be removed.
As for Scardino,
the main issues are in the short term with the healing on that lung.
Firefighters plan to keep visiting and hold both injured men in their thoughts and prayers.
There's really no way to avoid that situation. My heart goes out to the families of all of them.
And that really the key part of it, the firefighters trying to band together and continue to show support. We've heard more than 100, it may have been as much as 200 people from the fire community coming in and out of here supporting family as these two men try to heal and try to get better. We're told even if they're able to make a full recovery, which is possible, it'll be months of rehab for both of them. Reporting live here at Strong Hospital, Evan White, 13 WHAM News.
All right, hey, thank you, Evan. And now to the man responsible, the gunman, an ex-con, having served more than 17 years in prison for killing his 92-year-old grandmother back in 1980. Back then, 62-year-old William Spengler also lived at the Lake Road home where this morning's events unfolded. 13 WHAM Sean Carroll, the first to report this early this morning, live in the newsroom now with more on what we have learned.
Yeah, Don, public records indicate William Spengler lived at 191 Lake Road most of his adult life. His family also owned the home next door where his grandmother was found dead in July of 1980. This morning, officials say he positioned himself on a berm near those homes. He had multiple guns with him, and after the shooting, police spent hours trying to locate him in the area before confirming his death around 11 a.m. During the chaotic scene, while that fire rapidly spread from home to home, the first Webster police officer to arrive managed to exchange fire with Spengler, who laid in wait.
We're assuming that he was shooting from a high ground advantage and a berm near the home where he had, barricaded or set himself up with his weapons to shoot the innocent responders. And I will say that one of the first Webster police officers to respond did engage the shooter and probably in all likelihood saved many lives.
Spengler's criminal past dates back to July 1980 when Channel 13 first reported on the death of his grandmother.
92-year-old Rose Spengler lived alone at this house for over 40 years. She was found dead on the floor of the dwelling on Friday afternoon by her grandson, William Spengler, who lives next door. Spengler discovered the body at about 12:45 p.m. Police in Webster say that Mrs. Spengler was beaten with some type of blunt instrument.
That blunt instrument was a hammer, and Spengler would be convicted of manslaughter in 1981. He remained in prison until 1998. He completed parole in 2006. Officials confirmed Spengler's mother had recently passed away, but that fact alone hardly begins to offer answers.
We don't have an exact reason why, but just looking at the history, obviously this is an individual that has a lot of problems to have killed his grandmother, some 30-odd years ago.
Police Chief Pickering also confirmed that Spengler's sister remains unaccounted for tonight. She's quite possibly the only person along Lake Road still unaccounted for. They continue to search for her while continuing to investigate. The issue of guns and gun control, perhaps understandably, was brought up at today's briefings. In the wake of Newtown, Connecticut, Chief Pickering said bluntly when asked, Spengler was a convicted felon. No matter how he got those guns, they were illegal if they were in his hands. Don?
All right. Hey, thank you, Sean. More of our coverage will continue, but at this point, let's bring together what we have told you so far. 2 West Webster firefighters are dead, 2 others wounded after being shot and killed, ambushed as they responded to a fire on Lake Road early this morning. The fire scene became a crime scene as flames destroyed a total of 7 homes. Police identifying that shooter as 62-year-old William Spengler, who had previously served time for that 1980 killing of his grandmother, his sister, who shared that lake home, as you just heard from Sean Carroll, still unaccounted for. Going to take time now to look at what may be the other big developing story this week. We're kind of bracing for a winter storm.
Yeah, the first storm coming in tonight looks like some light snow here in western New York, and then that second storm, a winter storm watch Wednesday afternoon through Thursday afternoon. Wanted to show you this Ultimate Doppler HD showing some snow showers right now southwest of Rochester. They're lifting up our way. I think most of that activity is going to hold off until about 9, 10 o'clock tonight. So a quick look at your forecast. 7 o'clock, 30 degrees, gray skies. By 11 o'clock tonight, that snow in the air, upper 20s. And by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, a fresh inch or 2 for most areas. It's going to be a white Christmas here in western New York. We're going to check that other storm system out coming up.
All right. Hey, thank you, Mark. And there is more ahead on 13 WHAM News at 6.
The 2 victims that were with me have not moved since they've been struck.
The frantic moments as emergency responders rushed to that fire in Webster only to be ambushed by a gunman. And firefighters across our area mourning the deaths of their fallen comrades.
The most interesting, the most influential, the most discussed people and topics of 2012. The 13 Wham Newsmakers of the Year. Sunday at 7 on 13 Wham TV.
Need more money for the holiday season? Elves aren't the only Santa's helpers. Bring your unwanted jewelry, coins, and sterling silver to the Jewelry and Coin Exchange. Get more money for the holidays. The Jewelry and Coin Exchange in Rochester. A golden opportunity.
Been hit head-on, rear-ended, or T-boned? Don't wait. Call 8.
Automotive sale you've been waiting for all year. Toyotathon is on at Hazelton.
It's our biggest sale of the year, and Hazelton is out to set an all-time sales goal, so hurry in now.
Get 0% financing and great low lease payments on the popular Toyotas you love.
Shop our huge selection of Corollas, Siennas, RAV4s, Tundras, and of course the all-new Camry.
And remember, you're covered with Toyota Care on every new Toyota. Complimentary oil changes, tire rotations, inspections, and much more. Our biggest sale of the year ends with the new year, so hurry into Hazelton Toyota now before the deals are gone.
Now is the time to get a dedicated workers' comp attorney that works for you.
At Connors and Ferris, we represent you, the injured worker.
Call 262-COMP today.
13 Wham News, brought to you by Whitehaven Memorial Park.
The holidays are special, a time to enjoy family and friends. This year, don't miss a single minute of music, laughter, and merry conversation.
We have hearing aids that are easy to use and fit every lifestyle and budget. If hearing loss is holding you back from enjoying the holidays, take the first step. Call us and make an appointment to find out how we can help you.
Hear life.
Call Advanced.
13 Wham News, brought to you by Advanced Hearing Centers.
And we continue to follow our breaking news out of Webster tonight. Calm under fire. One of the firefighters shot this morning in Webster was able to call for help. We have the recording of that conversation with 911. With more on that, we turn to Adam Chodak in the newsroom. Adam.
Don, it's gripping audio as we hear the firefighter talk to 911 as shots were still being fired and tell them about the scene and his own wound, a bullet in the backside. That means the caller is likely Joe Hofstetter, who was shot in the pelvis. When he makes this call, he's taking cover behind a fire truck. We've strung snippets of the conversation together. Here it is.
I'm pretty sure we have 2 DOAs in the street. I made it 2 doors down. I did immediate EMS. Any way to find out for the police status of the shooter? If they are in the area, I don't know where they are. I'm under cover of the fire truck, which I've tried to move down the street and has crashed. I'm concerned about leaving the safe area I'm in. Try to move down the street, but I need immediate EMS. I believe the 2 victims that were with me have not moved since they've been struck.
2 firefighters, of course, died on scene. Help eventually came for Hofstetter and his fellow firefighter Theodore Scardino. Doctors at Strong Hospital say both men will live with the figurative and literal pain of the day for a long time to come. In the newsroom, Adam Chodak.
All right. Hey, thank you, Adam. Amazing to hear him remain so calm. Emergency responders often describe the bond they have with their co-workers as family. Today, black flags flew outside fire departments across the county in honor of Mike Ciparini and Tomas Kachuka, killed in the line of duty. Outside the West Henrietta Fire Department, a sign offering condolences to fellow firefighters. And outside the West Webster Fire Department, flowers to remember 2 of their own, a community in mourning tonight. Coming up next, Mark McLean with that holiday forecast, and we'll find out just how much snow is headed our way.
Nick Tahoe's, the home of the original garbage plate, wishes you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
It's a 315 horsepower, 5.3-liter V8. Nutcracker. The 2013 GMC Sierra. Get 0% financing for 60 months, plus trade up to this specially equipped Sierra and use your 2000 package discount for a total value of $4,000. Or choose to trade up with customer cash and your 2000 package discount for a total value of $7,500.
It's clear.
There's no magic or mystery in our approach. Our prices are clear and simple.
It's
It's simple.
Everybody gets our hassle-free, guaranteed lowest price.
It's different. It's Dorschel.
The savings are clear and simple at Dorschel Nissan. Lease a brand new 2012 Nissan Rogue SV with all-wheel drive for $168 a month for 39 months with $19.95 cash or trade.
Clear, simple difference. Dorschel Nissan.
It's hassle-free.
There you go. All right.
Good night. You too. I'm going to dream about that steak.
I'm going to dream about that tiramisu.
What a night, huh? But can the test drive be over now? Head back to the dealership.
Oh, yeah.
It's practically yours.
Sorry.
But we still need your signature. Volkswagen Sign Then Drive is back, and it's never been easier to get a Passat. That's the power of German engineering. Get zero down, zero do-it signing, zero deposit, and zero first month's payment on any new Volkswagen. Visit VWDealer.com today.
Doan Delivers.
What does Doan Delivers mean to me? Quality service done right the first time. It starts with DoanDelivers.com. It's easy to use. We've been doing business with the same salesperson for years. No pressure, no gimmicks. I'm on my third set of tires with their Tires for Life program. I'll always go back to Doan. Go to Doan Buick GMC today and see what Doan Delivers can mean for you.
Always first class service, 'cause Doan Delivers.
Now your planning forecast from the 13 Wham Weather Authority.
And Ultimate Doppler HD right now showing some of that light snow southwest of Rochester starting to lift into western New York here. So what that means, you've got about 2 hours or so for most of us to get out there if you need to travel around a bit. And then later tonight, not going to be crippling by any sense, but we're going to find some light snow flying around here in western New York. 30 right now. Feels like 22 with that east wind at 8 miles per hour and officially partly cloudy skies. So here's the futurecast. We've got 2 storms we're going to check out here. Here's the first one down to our southwest. That puts the snow in by 11 o'clock tonight. I think it's just a steady light snow, and as that storm shifts off to the east of Rochester through tomorrow morning for Christmas morning, I think we're going to find that snow fading away. Now down to the southwest from there, this is into Wednesday. Wednesday morning starts out snow-free here in western New York. That's 10 a.m. Wednesday morning. Now watch some of that snow start to lift into the area, and by 5, 6 o'clock Wednesday evening, we're into a steady snow, it looks like. At this point, there's a winter storm watch in effect during that time, Wednesday afternoon into Thursday afternoon. Snow futurecast tonight, this is what it looks like. Probably going to be shovelable. It looks like an inch, maybe an inch and a half, maybe an isolated 2+ inch total through tomorrow morning. And I think that's going to be about it as we head through time. So Christmas morning, I think we're going to be in the low 30s. It looks like it's going to be a white Christmas, early snow showers, and again, they fade away as we head through time. So here's a look at all the details. Snow before midnight, gray skies. Temperatures really going to stay stuck around 30 degrees through tomorrow morning. That snow into tomorrow afternoon tapers off with mainly snow-free weather as we head towards Christmas evening. And the 7-day forecast, heavy snow late Wednesday into Thursday. We'll track those models here for the next few days and see where we end up with it, Don. But it looks like it's cold enough for lake snow beyond that and cold enough for winter recreation. We just need to nail down that Wednesday night and Thursday time period. Looks like significant snow at this point.
All right. Hey, thank you, Mark. And we will be right back.
Neighborhood weather reports are made possible by Isaac Heating and Air Conditioning.
Welcome to Toyotathon, biggest sales event of the year. I'm Jan. How can I help?
We're looking for something exciting.
Dependable. Look around. Everything exciting is dependable, too.
Dependable and exciting.
Is he okay?
It's just sinking in. He's almost back. I call this me time. I love it.
Right now, lease a 2012 RAV4 for just $189 a month, or lease a 2013 Sienna for just $269 a month, or lease the 2013 Highlander for just $279 a month. Toyotathon is on, the event you don't want to miss.
They are a glowing example of what it means to be the best. And at this special time of year, they shine even brighter. Come to the winter event and get the Mercedes-Benz you always wished for, now for an exceptional price.
Hurry, the offers end December 31st. Lease a 2013 GLK 354 Matic for $419 a month at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer.
I wonder if he fed the cat. I wonder if he took out the trash. I wonder if he's been here all night.
Good morning. A hospital stay can feel overwhelming, even when you've had classes on what to expect. At Unity Hospital, we do thousands of joint replacements, but we never forget that a new knee opens a new chapter for both of you.
Poor guy. It's been a lot harder on him than it's been on me.
York Furniture Gallery celebrates the new year with savings never seen before at our new showroom. Buy now and pay with no interest for 2 full years during York Furniture Gallery's New Year's sale.
Visit unityhipsandknees.org to learn more about the Joint Replacement Center at Unity Hospital.
Stocks were down across the board on this day before Christmas on Wall Street. Dow Jones Industrials lost almost 52 points. The Nasdaq was down about 8, while the S&P 500 was off 3.5. There you have some stocks of local interest. I want to bring together our team coverage of the tragedy out in Webster today. Again, for you, 4 firefighters shot just before 6 this morning while responding to a fire on Bay Road. That's when they were met by sniper fire. 2 firefighters killed at the scene, 2 more taken to the hospital. They are in guarded condition. For more on this, of course, throughout the night, stay tuned to the ABC World News, which is next here in 13. Also more updates at 10 and 11. And we'll be back with a closing thought right after this.
13 Wham News Time Saver Traffic is sponsored by New Look Collision Centers.
Thank you for voting us DNC's Rochester Choice Award winner. Best Auto Collision Repair Shop 11 years in a row. Every year, New Look raises the bar.
Quality repairs and trustworthy service since 1981.
Thank you, Rochester, for all your support. Thank you, Rochester.
I know the folks at New Look Collision will make it just like new.
Dear Honda, thank you for giving my roommate a deal on her new car. She sure loved mine. Hello? Hey, are you driving my car? No. I can see you. So I made sure she got to the Honda sales event in time. She's actually not a bad roommate. Is that my sweater? Whoa.
Happy Honda Days ends soon. Don't wait to get a deal on the all-new Accord. Now at your Honda dealer.
The automotive sale you've been waiting for all year. Toyotathon is on at Hazleton.
It's our biggest sale of the year, and Hazleton is out to set an all-time sales goal, so hurry in now.
With over 700 new Toyotas to choose from and great Toyotathon incentives, this is your time to buy.
We are survivors at Western New York Wellness Incorporated. Come spin with us as we take a virtual tour of the Finger Lakes. Log your spin bike time, treadmill walking time, or aerobics class, and take the tour with our survivors.
It's Nissan season to save. Get in today for holiday bonus cash on popular models. Up to $2,000 on top of existing offers. Lease the all-new Altima, $199 per month plus bonus cash. Or lease the all-new Sentra, just $169 per month. Shop at ChooseNissan.com or your local Nissan dealer. Hurry, up to $2,000 holiday bonus cash ends January 2nd.
As we leave you tonight, we leave you with a moment of silence. As you gather with family and friends, remember those lives lost in service today.
Dawn Delivers.
What does Dawn Delivers mean to me? Quality service done right the first time. It starts with DawnDelivers.com. It's easy to use. I used to be intimidated going into a dealership, but not at Dawn. They knew exactly what I wanted. We're in our second set of tires with the Tires for Life program, saving us hundreds of dollars. Go to Dawn Dodge Chrysler Jeep today and see what Dawn Delivers can mean for you.
Always first class service, 'cause Dawn Delivers.
These guys might not get you a tax break, but Value City Furniture gives you something better. It's the after Christmas Super Tag Sale, and it's better than a tax break. Get 30 to 70% off store-wide. Plus, shop today and take an extra 10% off. That's better than a tax break. Plus 0% APR till 2014. And save $500 on this leather 3-piece living room, now just $799. Plus, get the ottoman free. And get 20 to 50% off clearance and floor samples. What's better than a tax break? The after Christmas Super Tag Sale, only at Value City Furniture.
You've waited. You knew the best time to buy would be right now. Chevy's giving more with the best offers of the year. The power of Silverado, the fuel efficiency of Cruise, the versatility of Equinox and Traverse. Every Chevy marked down, ready to move. The 2013 Equinox. Now through January 2nd, drive it away for $199 a month. Rochester, get ready for a Chevy.
Blackstone wine for $6.89? Hi, I'm Leanne from Lisa's Liquor Barn in Penfield. Do you like California wine? How about a bottle of Blackstone Winemaker Select for just $6.89? Or save even more when you buy a case of 12 with a $24 mail-in rebate. Your final cost, $4.89 per bottle. For the best prices, selection, and service, stop in and see us today. Lisa's Liquor Barn in Penfield. Why pay more?
All night to go put out fires that they don't expect to be shot and killed.
2 dead, 2 wounded, and a gunman with a disturbing past. Stormy Christmas bracing for a barrage of blizzards and tornadoes. And the major new threat for the millions trying to get home after the holiday. An American original, the curtain goes down on the man beloved by TV viewers as the messy roommate and the dogged medical examiner. Jack Klugman has died. And Dear Santa, the great American tradition, 100 years old now. Strangers answering the notes from needy children. What these everyday heroes heard this year that surprised them.
From ABC News, World Headquarters, this is ABC World News with Diane Sawyer. Reporting tonight, Dan Harris.
Good evening. A holiday season already blighted by gun violence has now culminated in this. A group of firefighters ambushed on Christmas Eve. The men were responding to this fire at dawn. It turned out, though, to be a trap. As soon as they got there, they were picked off one at a time by a lone gunman. 2 firefighters were killed on the spot, 2 others seriously wounded. The suspect then shot and killed himself. This all went down in the tiny town of Webster, New York, on the shores of Lake Ontario. And so we begin tonight with ABC's Paula Ferris.
The fire broke out just before sunrise, the 911 call at 5:35 a.m. in sleepy Webster, New York. 2 firefighters sped to the scene in their engine. 2 others drove their own cars. But when they moved in to battle the blaze, gunfire.
Reporting 3 firefighters.
From your breaking news and weather authority, this is 13 Wham News at 11 in high definition.
They were ambushed responding to a fire. Volunteer firefighters shot on arrival.
It does appear that it was a trap that was set for responding, first responders.
2 firefighters died, 2 survived, 7 homes destroyed. Now a community in mourning and asking why. The firefighters walked into a trap on Lake Road in Webster. Police say William Spengler, who had been on parole for killing his grandmother, set the fire and shot the first responders as they arrived on the scene. We have team coverage tonight. Kelsey Smith is in Webster, where the community is mourning. And we begin with Angela Hong, who tells us how this tragedy unfolded today.
Well, Rachel, as of this evening, a portion of Lake Road in Webster is still closed, but the fire is out. Now investigators must piece together how and why this happened. The call came in for a car fire at 191 Lake Road at 5:30 in the morning. The volunteer firefighters were shot when they pulled up.
We are being shot at. Multiple firemen down. Multiple firemen shot. I am shot.
It appears that it was a trap, that there was a car and a house that were engulfed in flame, probably set by Mr. Spengler, who laid in wait with armament and then shot the first responders.
As flames spread, residents were evacuated. The fire raged for 2 hours. Firefighters weren't allowed to get close because the shooter was on the loose. 2 firefighters were dead at the scene.
Fireman Tomas was deceased at the scene. Fireman Mike Ciparini, who is also lieutenant with the Webster Police Department, was deceased at the scene.
43-year-old Lieutenant Mike Ciparini was a veteran volunteer firefighter, a Webster police lieutenant, and he also led the Explorer program. 19-year-old Tomas became a volunteer firefighter through that program. Kachuka was also a 911 dispatcher. Firefighters Theodore Scardino and Joseph Hofstetter were also shot at the scene. They are at Strong Memorial Hospital in guarded condition. The shooter, 62-year-old William Spengler Jr., shot and killed himself. He was found on the beach. His sister, who lived at 191 Lake Road with him, is still missing.
Mr. Spengler has a quite a lengthy criminal history. In 1980, he was arrested by the Webster police and charged with killing his grandmother. He was convicted in 1981.
In 1998, Spengler was released and he was on parole until 2006. Police are still on scene trying to see if there are any other victims inside the 7 homes that were destroyed. The Red Cross is currently assisting the people who have been evacuated because of this incident. Rachel.
Thanks, Angela. The gunman, William Spengler, has a criminal past. He was convicted of manslaughter in 1981 for the death of his grandmother. 13 Wham's Sean Carroll has more.
During the chaotic scene, while that fire rapidly spread from home to home, the first Webster police officer to arrive managed to exchange fire with Spengler, who laid in wait.
We're assuming that he was shooting from a high ground advantage in a berm near the home where he had, barricaded or set himself up with his weapons to shoot the innocent responders. And I will say that one of the first Webster police officers to respond did engage the shooter and probably in all likelihood saved many lives.
Spengler's criminal past dates back to July 1980 when Channel 13 first reported on the death of his grandmother.
92-year-old Rose Spengler lived alone at this house for over 40 years. She was found dead on the floor of the dwelling on Friday afternoon by her grandson, William Spengler, who lives next door. Spengler discovered the body at about 12:45 p.m. Police in Webster say that Mrs. Spengler was beaten with some type of blunt instrument.
That blunt instrument was a hammer, and Spengler would be convicted of manslaughter in 1981. He remained in prison until 1998. He completed parole in 2006. Officials confirmed Spengler's mother had recently passed away, but that fact alone hardly begins to offer answers.
We don't have an exact reason why, but just looking at the history, obviously this is an individual that has a lot of problems to have killed his grandmother, some 30-odd years ago.
In Webster, Sean Carroll, 13 Wham News.
And again, Spengler's sister is missing. Pickering also said Spengler was not supposed to have guns because he was a convicted felon. Tonight, people are shocked and saddened by this shooting. Mourners showed up at the West Webster Fire Hall to remember those killed in the line of duty and pray for those recovering. 13 Wham's Kelsey Smith attended a vigil earlier this evening. She joined us from Webster.
Rachel, people have been coming here all night, even as the snow continues to fall. You can see still some outside of the West Webster Fire Hall at a vigil that was set up earlier this evening by people just wanting to show their support.
A tragedy isn't even the word for it.
People stood in silence with burning candles and tears.
I don't know how you couldn't come out tonight. These guys are everybody's heroes. And that alarm sounds, they all go. It could be you, it could be me.
Brothers huddled together, grieving for their own. Volunteer firefighter Mike Ciparini and volunteer firefighter Tomas Kachuka.
I just wanted to pay my respects. I graduated with Tomas, and I just wanted to show some respect, obviously, for him and Mr. Ciparini. I knew Nick Ciparini very well, too, and I just wanted to, pay respects for everything.
And one by one, people laid candles and paid their respects.
Webster's a wonderful community. They'll rally around this. They're strong. We're strong people. They're a community that's there for everybody. They'll get through it. Very sad.
This is a time of celebration, time to be with your families, and now there's people that don't have a home, and there's family members that are missing, and there's family members that are hospitalized. And how can that be Christmas?
Members of the Henrietta, Laurelton, Pittsford, and Chi-Life Fire Departments are all here supporting and covering for the West Webster Firefighters. Live in Webster, Kelsey Smith, 13 Wham News.
Thanks, Kelsey. The victims were dedicated volunteer firefighters. Mike Ciparini was a Webster police lieutenant as well. Tomas Kachuka was a county 911 dispatch operator. Friends and coworkers say both men loved their jobs.
Oh, definitely in his blood. He wanted to be a fireman in the worst way, wanted to work here at 911 and help other people and help the community. another person that is always there to help his community, whether it was with the fire department or with the police department. Always engaged in and worked on those extra projects helping the police department.
And the two firefighters who survived the shooting face a long road to recovery. Joe Hofstetter was struck in the pelvis and Ted Scardino was struck in the hand and shoulder. Both men are in the ICU. Firefighters from area department visited them at Strong Memorial Hospital where they are in guarded condition. They are alert and talking.
It's the banding together of the family. Firefighters, whether union or volunteer, we're all doing the same job.
There's really no way to avoid that situation. My heart goes out to the families of all of them.
Scardino and Hofstetter face months of rehabilitation. John Ritter, a Greece police officer, had minor injuries. He drove by the scene on his way to work when gunfire hit his car. 911 audio recordings of the incident show the bravery of one of the injured firefighters. You're about to hear what is likely the voice of Joe Hofstetter, the firefighter shot in the pelvis. He appears to be calling for help while taking cover behind a fire truck. This recording comes from phillyfirenews.com.
I'm pretty sure we have 2 DOAs in the street. I made it 2 doors down. I need immediate EMS. Any way to find out from the police status of the shooter? They are in the area. I don't know where they are. Dispatcher, I am under cover of the fire truck, which I have tried to move down the street and has crashed. I am concerned about leaving the safe area I'm in to try to move down the street, but I need immediate EMS. I believe the 2 victims that are with me have not moved since they've been struck.
In recapping this terrible day, 4 firefighters were shot while responding to a house fire on Lake Road this morning. 2 were killed. The gunman shot and killed himself at the scene. 7 homes were destroyed in the fire, 33 people displaced. Police have not been able to search the homes for other victims. The gunman's sister, who lives on Lake Road where the fire started, is missing. And of course, we'll continue to update this story as we get new details on 13wham.com. And tune in to 13 Wham News this morning for the very latest.
And light snow falling outside here at Western New York, and this is the first of 2 systems that'll be passing through Western New York as we head through this week. The first one here, it's going to put down an inch or 2 of snow as we head through the overnight. And no particular areas of heavy snow right now, but you can see some of those darker greens right now stretching along 390 just south of Rochester. The latest observation from the airport has visibility down to a half mile, so that means snow accumulating at the rate of about 1/4 of an inch to a ½ inch per hour, and still a little bit of snow west of Rochester. I think some of this snow is going to move out by about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So here's the forecast tomorrow, Christmas Day, low 30s. We're going to find those early snow showers moving east of Rochester. Well, it's going to be a white Christmas here at Rochester, but we've got some big snow to talk about, some big snow potential. In just a couple of minutes, we'll highlight that.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Still ahead, a small community shaken by tragedy. We'll have more reaction to the deadly shooting of 2 firefighters in Webster this morning and how fire departments across our area remember their fallen comrades today. We have some breaking news from the city of Rochester. There has been a shooting in the area of North Clinton and Sullivan Street. We have a crew on the way, and we'll bring you the latest information as we get it. Back to our top story, Webster is a large suburb, but it is a close-knit community. Many people were affected by today's tragedy. The deputy superintendent of Webster Schools is a county legislator who knew Mike Ciparini through the Webster Explorers program. Ciparini was a volunteer. Gumina also knew Tomas Kachuka. He graduated from Webster in 2011. The 2 volunteer firefighters were killed today. Gumina also knew Joe Hofstetter, who was injured. He used to be his teacher at Webster High.
Officer Mike, 20-year veteran for our community, and it is an incredible loss. It's tough to find words, to tell you the truth. Tomas was not even 20 years old. I think of Joe Hofstetter, and I always picture Joe as this 16-year-old that I had in class, and my heart goes out to him and his mom, who's my daughter's teacher right now.
And 1 year ago this month, the Webster community was also in mourning. A father and 2 sons died in a house fire. A 3rd son, Michael Pilato, was charged with murder, accused of setting that fire. Many residents and law enforcement officials expressed disbelief another tragedy has unfolded in their community. It was a somber day for many emergency responders in Monroe County. Fire departments raised black flags to honor Mike Ciporini and Tomas Kachuka, killed in the line of duty. The West Henrietta Fire Department sign offered condolences to fellow firefighters. Merry Christmas, everyone. Be sure to tune in to 13 Wham News tomorrow morning. Good night.
For breaking news and weather anytime, 13 Wham News is always on at 13wham.com and on your mobile device. 13 Wham News is your breaking news and weather authority.